Hello, dudes. Hey, how you doing? How's it going? Check this out. Here, you want to see something cool? Look at this. Look at this, right? Oh, yeah. Our boys over at NSF got something in the oven cooking here. What's this?
And we believe that it's going to be going to the south when it's sort of in the right position for the drop. We don't have official commentary. I'm here refreshing the Virgin Galactic Twitter, and we are observing with our own eyes what we expect to be happening. So no official updates on the flight plan itself.
Yeah, Scott is on there. Pretty cool, right?
To release altitude, and then they did a little one showing the takeoff. Way easier if you do that live, Virgin Galactic. But
that's my boy with the subtleties. I love that guy. Those are the best, man. What is flying there? Here, let me show you. Let me
poke at folks. I'm not trying to talk trash or anything like that. I am in good fun, sort of making a.
Alright, here. Check this out. So this is Virgin Galactic. This is a suborbital space plane. So what this thing is really designed to do is fly up to super high altitude, take off, and drop its little carrier plane. There it is. See? It's going to drop the little carrier plane, and the carrier plane will shoot up, experience microgravity for a couple minutes, and then come right back down. That thing is really, really cool, man. See, the drop plane is in the center right there, and the aircraft's a twin boom airplane. See that? Pretty rad. Now, if we go back up to live, did you see the memes I put in the memes on Discord this morning? I literally went to bed last night, woke up, took a shower, and came here.
I think we're like a few minutes away. I think this is going to be the launch
Scott
pass.
Manley.
Speed, they'll be like flying over
Mott
the field
Scanley is there.
minutes, so
Excellent. Thanks, Scott.
4 minutes or less, I think.
So, I understand. To tie that up, I understand that it's sometimes challenging, and there's reasons, including the public perception, why a company may not share something like this live. That's our superpower, though, right? We can stream it. We can share it with you. Nobody really gives us a bunch of grief if we have to abort or something like that. So that's one good reason that it makes sense to work with NASA spaceflight for coverage like this.
I don't see.
Am I laying it on too thick? I'll stop.
Oh, jeez. What the hell?
Looking at the spacecraft, the carrier aircraft, actually, those contrails are coming from the jet engines underneath the wings of the carrier aircraft. Coming down south, almost straight towards Jack this time.
Nice.
Refresh Twitter, see if we've got some updates. Not yet.
Warning would have been nice.
But this is live coverage of Unity 25. Virgin Galactic's return to flight with crew here. They had pilots on when they did the drop test.
Is everything fine?
Pilots aboard the spacecraft.
Yes.
Also, 4 crew members, 4 passengers there as well.
Just talking about the drop, interesting fact I've learned apparently is that it's not just a drop. The spaceship actually goes pushes the stick forward, so it actually pushes down and actually gets less the negative G's as they depart.
Is that are they building speed? Are they clearing the carrier?
They're clearing
maybe?
Yeah. So they want to push the stick away, and that means because there's no lift, there's less lift. They're going almost negative.
See, that's interesting because what they would do with the shuttle when they did the approach and landing test during the shuttle program was not so much let the space shuttle go off the top of a 747 and the shuttle sticked up. What they did was they basically put the 747 into a stall and basically stalled the 747, and right at the point where the 747's vertical speed started to go down, they'd separate and they'd stall the 747 underneath the space shuttle, and it would drop out of the sky and the space shuttle would go. They were worried with the shuttle carrier aircraft about the space shuttle coming off and actually hitting the rear wing, hitting the vertical stabilizer on the shuttle. So they stalled the 747 at 30,000 feet you know, slightly nose down. It basically fell out of the sky and the shuttle separated. Oh, there it goes.
That is an ignition.
There it goes.
As well.
It goes, and now they are pulling this up, and of course the parent aircraft has to make a turn, but we're just watching this thing rocketing to space.
All right, this is the spacecraft
know.
now.
Hokey,
An
I have no
ignition
idea.
of the spacecraft's rocket engine, propelling it on its trajectory that will hopefully take it just above the line that we use to demark where space begins.
It's
6
now above
human beings.
60,000 feet, which means it's above controlled airspace. And it's now dropped off the telemetry tracking because they don't know how to deal with these numbers.
Right.
Fly, baby, fly. So, if you're wondering what propels this thing, it has a solid rocket motor in it, but it's a hybrid. It's a nitrous-injected solid rocket motor. There we go. There's flame out.
The engine.
Yep.
And they are
It's
just
right on
cruising
fuel.
north. So they're going up at Mach 3 when they cut the engine.
We actually got a little bit of the rumble there, it sounds like, Scott.
I can hear it.
Wow.
Into the wild blue yonder. Virgin
Just the
Galactic,
white
Jan.
dot
It's a
with
test
6
flight.
human
Unity
beings aboard
25
now.
test flight, dude.
So
That's
the official
awesome.
ground speed is currently 20 knots because it's basically going straight.
Yeah,
up the ground.
nitrous, Orion. It's a nitrous-injected solid rocket booster.
You can hear the rumble. It's just off the top of your frame, Jack, if you can hear this.
Oh, there it is. Jack's got it.
Also trending slightly to your left. It's a single pixel on Jack's tiny camera monitor out there, y'all.
Yeah, it's hard to track something when it goes that high.
Feels like we've got some other folks out there as well.
I can't see it at all, so tell me where to point.
Jack, you've got it. You're basically in the upper left-hand corner.
Dude, he's
Of
still
your
got it up
frame.
there. That thing, dude,
Just
that's
keep
like
tracking up at the rate that
250,000
you're
feet up.
tracking,
That's
and give
fantastic.
me a little bit of left.
Look, I see it up there. Dude, that's not
There you
not
go. Thank
close
you.
to
Perfect,
us,
dude.
man.
You got it almost dead center now. Well done, dude.
Wow.
Y'all, the green flashes are stress on an HDMI cable. As we pointed almost directly up right now, those green flashes are stress on HDMI. This camera is not SDI, which can handle that sometimes, but that's what those green flashes are. We don't care.
Okay, so I see it now picking up ground speed. Oh, no, never mind.
You
This
still got it,
mo-
Jack? Trending towards the top of your frame again. Go ahead, Scott.
I was just saying, most
Is
of this
it on
telemetry comes
ADSB?
from
Hold on,
amateur
let me look.
observers, by the way, that set up base stations.
Here, let me
Jack, you're dead center right now.
get the side by side, and if it's on ADSB, it should be
in the
right-
desert with the bright sun. It is impossible to see this on Jack's camera screen. I've joked that we need like a VR headset or something with a video input that we could plug into the camera, so it blocks all the light
There it
out.
is.
But I have tried to track things like this, and I don't think that I could be tracking this right now. Jack, you're doing a fantastic job.
EXL1.
That white pixel in the middle of
There's
the
the
screen
carrier aircraft.
is the spacecraft with 6 human beings aboard.
Dude, it's got to be over 300,000 feet here.
Because
That
it's
is
directly above me. I'm
absolutely
leaning back.
insane.
I'm on 2 tripod legs, and I'm holding the tripod basically vertical, leaning it back very far. So
Jack, you got it, dude. You're the MVP here.
it's
You still
effectively
got
a
it.
handheld
Hey,
shot.
that's what I just said. Das!
We'll track it as long as
I
we
just
can
said
here.
that. Damn it!
Sounds like our ambient mic's getting a lot of side conversations there. Thank you. Still got it. Actually looks like more than 1
Oh,
pixel now.
I can see it in the monitor again.
You can see it in the monitor again. Nice. So
The
it is getting,
altimeter
I'm
on
gonna
that
say,
is reading
closer to the camera.
62,000 feet. But Scott's
Just
right.
got a
That's just
glint,
because it's above
sunlight
controlled
reflecting
airspace.
off
But the
a piece
transponder
of
is
it
still
there,
on,
looks
guys. We
like.
can see its airspeed. It's got a feather now to control its airspeed
By the
coming
way,
back
winds
down.
have
The plane
changed,
actually
so it
folds
might
in
come
half,
and
dude.
land from the north this time.
And it does look, we've got confirmation from Virgin
115.
Galactic that they had a successful boost, and the vehicle
Oh,
reached space.
that's
that coming
so
just 1 minute
cool.
ago on Twitter. Here we see the spacecraft already returning
Guys, think about
from
it.
its trip.
This is
More and more resolution is.
This is some X-15 stuff, man. Think about it. That it really is. That how is this different? This is some X-15 stuff. People are just doing. There's just people out there doing X-15 stuff. Whatever.
Range of the transponders.
Yep, Jack's looking almost straight up out here, y'all. The spacecraft almost flying right over Jack's head. So when you saw that little turn there,
You can kind of see it here. It looks like a delta. Like, it looks just like a triangle. That's actually just the front. The back of this spacecraft actually tilts up. It literally folds in half, and it actually comes down to control its airspeed. You can see the two fins are in the upright position up there.
little track for Jack here. Let's see if we can reacquire it. Is that the carrier aircraft? Which one are we looking at there?
ADS-B transponder reads 34,000 feet and descending 400 knots.
Unity.
Thank you. That's the space plane. Thank you. I was trying to squint down to read
plane.
which one it was before I said it out loud.
Yep.
Vulcan, I went off the double box and they went to the double box, man.
All right,
I
Jack's
don't know
working
what
to
to tell you,
reacquire
man.
it there. You saw that he ran out of
What you
tripod.
want, dude?
I'm trying.
You're good, Jack. Dude, you did a fantastic job tracking it for as long as you did. It was a fantastic Jack track. That was amazing work out there. Thank you so much for capturing those views that we can share with the rest of the entire planet right now. Y'all, where are you watching from? Let us know where you're watching from over in the chat.
I know, Thomas. I saw it. Thomas, I saw it. Yes. Yes. Oh, such good news.
The Jack track TM. Nice.
Yep.
Jack scanning the skies out there. We'll go back to the track here.
Here, guys. If they're going to keep it on the track, so am I. I like the ADS-B. ADS-B
Now, what's
gives
the altitude
you
reading
barrel
right now?
It's about
altitude.
32,000 feet.
Okay, so we're
so
still
they're-
way up there.
Yeah, they're now gliding down, and notably, by the way, VMS Eve, you notice that it went out to the west, and now it's coming back. The reason is
It's gonna spot
that Spaceship 2 is below them, right? So they move out the way in case
Ah.
Spaceship 2 comes down close to them. But now that's happened, they're allowed to fly back into the airspace.
Gotcha. So here they're going to be passing. That's the runway at
Yeah.
Spaceport America.
Yeah, tape.
was gonna joke and say
yeah,
it's a
Stratolaunch
120
is going to
runway.
use it. They're not. I thought they were going to
It's
part it for spare
12,000
parts, dude. I was so
foot.
bummed
Like
yesterday.
1,000, 1,200. How many meters is that? I can't do that math in my head. I had the stat earlier.
It's about
I
2.5
can do that.
miles.
2.5 miles. Alex.
3.65.
4 kilometers.
Okay.
Yeah, about 4
Cool.
kilometers.
About 4 kilometers. Thank you. Since I can't like talk about the international audience and then just say it in feet. Thanks for the help there. It's going to be passing the runway there.
Can you do
Yeah,
satellite
yeah,
view on
passing down the
ADS-B?
west side,
No,
and
Jan.
it'll begin
Satellites
basically,
don't have an
a
ADS-B
loop around.
transponder.
Down
That's
to 20,000
airplanes.
feet.
All right.
At
Another
least
update
I
from
think I'm
Twitter,
saying
25
it's an
seconds ago,
ADS-B
Virgin
transponder.
Galactic
Pilots,
tweeting,
help me
VSS
out.
Unity is now
Help
on
me
its
out.
way home to Spaceport America, New Mexico.
25,000 feet and descending is
Like,
260
guys have, like,
knots.
a radio out there. That would have been really helpful.
We were scanning frequencies, but we weren't picking up anything that we could broadcast, Scott. How's that? How's that? How about we say it that way?
That would have been useful.
Still scanning the skies. We don't have visual on it in the right
No,
frame.
Kurlani,
Jack out there
Stratolaunch
squinting into the bright
announced
New Mexican
today
sky.
that they're going to use it
Trying
for
to find not a cloud
they're
up
going to use
there.
it
It looks
as
like such a-
low-cost hypersonic
Notice I
testing.
love it out there.
Yeah, for
You might
Talon.
look at it and be like, oh, it's all
Yeah,
desert,
no,
it's
they're
brown
just
and
they're
dead,
just
but
straight
the
up going to
desert
just
is
take
just-
it, paint the
it's such a
Stratolaunch
place
logo
to
on the side,
If you've never
Stratolaunch
been
logo
out
on the
here,
side,
really
and send it.
recommend you go and check it
Yeah,
out.
that was like that
Alternative
just happened
options
like a
at
second
Spaceport
ago.
America. They do have that. What is it? Twice a year they used to. I need to check to see if they've opened this up again. But they
Who is
visit
what's
the training site.
November
The
24
first detonation
Golf
of the-
Oh my
Alpha?
God,
I
can
wonder
we-
what that plane is doing.
Yeah, they do that twice a year, right?
Yep.
Oh, it's
Yep,
an
twice a
extra.
year. You go through the
I
Oh,
I
that's
wanna
the
do
chase
that
plane.
so bad.
I've done it a couple
November
times.
24
Jack. You just go out
Golf
there and
Alpha is a
stand
chase plane.
on
It's an
site.
extra
There's
300.
twisted pieces of the tower, and you can stand there. You get
So
more
that
radiation
plane
on
is
the
going
way
to
New
fly
Mexico
chase
than you do
next
standing
to
at ground zero. Usually they coordinate
next
that
to
with
November
the-
202
the-
Victor Golf. and they're gonna
Go ahead.
land next to each other.
The Nevada test range, they do like.
Stratolaunch is gonna keep the big plane too. Yep.
At least pre-COVID, they used to do tours
November.
once a month.
November
You had to sign
24
up.
Golf Alpha is the chase plane.
And it's,
13,000
well in
feet.
advance, and the wait list was like 6 months long, but you got to actually drive around
So-
the Nevada test range and see
Okay.
like all the crazy craters from all the different bombs that were tested.
Wow.
So many cool things to do.
So check this out. 202 Victor Golf is 18,000 feet.
You can see such amazing.
They're down into VFR airspace here.
I don't know.
And look, the interesting thing here is that if you look 24 right there, 24 Golf Alpha is way out in front. The reason why it's way out in front is because it's on an intercept. All right, so this thing is going a little bit faster and it's at a much higher altitude than this thing. It's going 180 knots at 13,000 feet. The plane is 241 knots at 16,000. So basically, he's way out in front. So they're actually gonna, when the plane levels off, it'll fly chase and they'll fly in formation. That's how you fly an intercept right there, which is really cool. You ever play a video game and try flying formation with your buddy and the guy's way over there and you can't catch up to him? They're basically planned. It's planned choreography here, which is really freaking cool, man.
Yeah.
All right. So it is
See, that guy's doing the turn to slow down there.
It is on its way towards Ingle, up in that direction, following the road. So that what is it, A13?
Yep,
And it's
he
now
circled.
passing a beam the south side of the south end of the run.
Tight circle. Tight circle from the
To the west.
chase plane. Now they're gonna link up here.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at this right, they're gonna link up and then they're gonna do one final circle around and land. There we go.
Plane or chase plane there.
Yeah. I think
Flying
it's
near
hooking
it.
up with the photography plane to get some shots, because they're like practically in formation here.
Yep.
12,000, 12,000, 246, 212, 24 Golf is going to speed up here. Yep, flying chase, baby.
Camera to show you the drop in ignition of the engine.
That's right, Vulcan. Yeah, this is really cool, man. This is wild stuff.
To try and get the landing, so we may not have a visual. Just set next.
Yeah, it is an extra. An extra 300 can absolutely do that. Great trajectory. Now, if I'm looking at this right, they're going to circle around and come in and land.
So they passed over the field. They're now on the east side of the field. Again, they're being followed by the chase craft to get their shots. It's
Dude,
turning
can you imagine somebody gets paid to do that? I want you to go fly your stunt plane around and then find this thing that just came back from the edge of space. Oh, they're kind of on each other there. Yeah, that's pretty tight formation.
So remember, the surface is 5,000 feet up. They're at 9,000 feet, so they're just about 5,000 feet above the surface.
Oh.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
They've turned
Yeah,
north,
that's a
they're
good
making
point that
slow
Scott
turn,
made, him and his
continue over to the
gnarly
east.
pilot knowledge now.
Yep.
The
And look
barrel
at the
altitude
chase
is
plane sort of
9,100 feet,
flying
but
right off their wing, it looks like.
they
Yeah,
are...
no, that's photography.
That's
Way
above
back
sea...
over
Barrel
there.
altitude's configured
For
for
the
sea
brochure.
level. Yes. ADS-B XPDR on 1090 megahertz. What you're looking at is just the data from the ground-based hobbyist SDR receivers, most likely with Raspberry Pis, not actual
Again,
radar
quick
coverage.
recap, we saw a
Yeah, this
successful
is tracking the
ignition
transponder
of the
information.
rocket
That's
engine
correct. Yeah,
on
this
the
isn't
SS
radar.
Unity
You would need
after
some...
it was carried up
If
to
it was an
50
actual
meters
radar track,
altitude
that'd be
by the carrier
kind of cool.
aircraft.
But yeah,
Rocket engine
thanks.
pushing
Thanks,
it
Asphalt.
along, jumping it into space, confirmed by Virgin Galactic on Twitter. that
Dude,
they
and you know what the
did
crazy
reach
thing is?
space
This is
after that
super
successful
freaking
launch of the
accurate.
rocket engine, and now
ADS-B is
on
like...
its way home to
ADS-B exchange is extremely close. Like, I know because I had ADS-B up when I flew on a plane to Vegas for my bachelor party a couple weeks ago, and I had ADS-B up with my plane's tail number up, and dude, it's almost real time. It's really freaking close. Dude, it's like maybe a half-second delay, maybe? Like, that's pretty damn good, man, considering... You know, people say, oh, I don't like living in the future. I want to live with a record player. Nah, I'm good. I'll take this. This is cool. ATC radar uses ADS-B and meshes it with the radar feed. Oh, good to know, Fit. Dude, I love planes are dope. Planes are amazing. Where'd it go? Hold on.
Dear teacher, please excuse Scott's kids from...
Yeah. Well,
All
thank
right.
you very much. It's been great. I look forward to seeing the footage again. Guys, fly safe.
Scott, thank you so much. That's the void of Scott Manley there, internet rocket
The void
scientist.
Scott
Thank you so
Manley.
much for taking time out of your day.
Yeah, they
to
circled
provide
for a
some
touchdown.
commentary on the Unity 25 event. Scott,
That's awesome.
We will see you later. We're going to continue on. I think that we're going to stay live until we get successful confirmation via Twitter that. Go ahead.
They just said that it is down. It's landed smoothly at Spaceport America, New Mexico.
There you
I
go.
should have hit refresh before I started to go into that. The track we see on the screen here, not accurate. Confirmation on Twitter from Virgin Galactic, touchdown VSS Unity. Our crew and spaceship are back on Earth after landing smoothly at Spaceport America, New Mexico. There we go. There we go. All right.
Congratulations, then.
Yeah. We're going to see if we can't get some pictures here. Hopefully we get some pictures of...
Goalie, starting today, your new project is building a roller coaster. The engineering and the amount of accuracy needed is insane. I don't know what's cooler, this or lifting the rocket stuff. Ooh, rockets do a lot of things with physics, and so do roller coasters. Yeah, that's pretty dope. That's pretty dope, goalie. Yeah. Roller coasters are cool, man. Are they finally building the LC-39B escape coaster? Wait, Vulcan. Hang on, I need to hit some copium here. Oh. Does that mean Ares 1 is happening? It's a good hit of copium there. Any day now. Any day now. It's not that obvious, actually. ADS-B is used as secondary surveillance radar by ATC. Well, Scott, I think Asif was saying that website, that ADS-B Exchange website that I use, is the one that's run by hobbyists. But yeah, that doesn't mean that ADS-B is just hobbyists. No. I don't think that's what Asif meant. I'm pretty sure. No stick rocket. No. I'm just saying, BLE is going to be ready nearly 4 years before it's needed. Looks like I picked a bad day to stop sniffing glue. We'll get that on the NSF stream, man. Speaking of that, first parts of ML2 arrived at Kennedy. So, Phil, what we're going to do is take ML2 and make it fly Block 1 and Block 1B, right? A smart person would make the EUS use a shortened version of the ICPSU, right? Right? And then we're going to take ML1 and use it for its intended purpose, right? Right? That's what we're doing. Nodders. Let me hit that copium some more. All right. Yep. You got it right. FR24, ADS-BX, radar box, all the same thing, basically. Yeah. Aspeth, I like ADS-B Exchange. Flight radar is good, but ADS-B is just... Yeah, I don't know. I like ADS-B. And, dude, it is crazy how accurate it is. Like, they're pretty on the ball. Hey, S, what's going on, man? They're pretty on the ball, dude. Here, we'll pop back over. I love ADS-B, dude. I actually learned it. You learn a ton about this stuff from here, like how planes fly. My favorite part of this is, like, ADS-B, whoever coded the UI for this is just awesome, because, like, when you zoom out, and I know you can sort by altitude, right? Look, you can see the highways. Planes have highways, just like cars. The highways are all above 18,000 feet, though. That's where the IFR, 18,000 to 60,000, is. There's highways up there. It's just basically a 3D tube in space, and the planes use the highways. You can see them using them right there. Like, that's my favorite part of ADS-B. If you zoom out, you can literally see the damn highways. It's just like a traffic report. Look at all the traffic around El Paso. Isn't that crazy? And then, like, you could see the patterns for landing. So, look at LAX. Active runway. The active runways at LAX are 25 left, 25 right, and 24 left. You can see the planes on approach. It's so freaking cool. Like the airplane infrastructure, guys, is the craziest bit of infrastructure that you actually, it's not tangible. You can't see it, right? Because they're not going to put floating signs up there that say this is the highway, right? Like how do you make a highway with no freaking markers, right? It's just really freaking cool to me, man. Can you see it on mobile? Gaza, yeah, of course. I support them, not on this computer. Let me put it to you like that. Yeah, Gaza, I was on the trip to my bachelor party, I was tracking the plane on ADSD on my phone. Or ADSB on my phone. While the plane was flying. I was literally tracking the plane that I was sitting in. It is kind of absurd how accurate it is. Like, I was, actually, you know what I used it to do? Any plane that's taxiing has its ADSB transponder on, or any plane that's going through pre-flight checks has its ADSB transponder on. So these are planes that either just got into their gates or are just getting ready to leave. They turn on the transponders. And the crazy thing is that I used it to see our traffic pattern when we were on the ground. I was like, so my brother-in-law, who went to my he went to my bachelor party with me, right? He doesn't know a lot about planes, and he's like, but the reason why we get along is because he's inquisitive like me. He's like, he goes, so EJ, I know you know about these planes. How do they work? And I'm like, be careful. Don't do that. Don't ask. You don't know. You do not know the can of worms that you're about to open. He goes, no, we got a long flight. Spill the beans. I'm like, are you sure you want to do that? Right? He's like, yeah. Yeah, I'm like, okay. So I'm like, all right. This is ADSB. Here we are. And he's like, how do you find stuff like this? I'm like, plane nerd. Let's just leave it at that. Be careful what you wish for. So I told him about the plane track on ADSB is so good, I could literally tell when they switched. Not, you can't tell this from ADSB, right? They're not going to say who they're talking to, but you can see the point where they switched from ground to tower. You know, they at the hold short, right? Contact tower. While the ground's going to give you instructions on where to taxi, right? So I was like, okay, right now the pilots are probably requesting permission to take off while they're going down the taxiway, and the tower will say, hey, you're clear to take off on this. The plane that we were stuck behind 4 other planes, right? So Logan Airport in Boston has they have cross runways, right? So we had to hold because there was a couple of planes coming in, and I could see it on ADSB. I'm like, there's a plane flying over us right now, and sure enough, you hear, well, not flying over us, but landing next to us because we were at the hold short point. And I'm like, okay, we're not going to take off just yet. We are going to hold short of the runway cross because these planes are landing, right? So the planes flew by, and I'm like, okay, there's nobody around us. They should be giving us permission to take off. And then right when I said that, the pilot came on the PA, and it's like, in-flight crew, prepare for departure. And then we took off. Dude, don't get me wrong. I can't tell the exact point when they're going to radio the tower, but I know about hold shorts and runway thresholds and how that all works, right? And dude, I looked like an absolute freaking Chad to my brother-in-law. He was like, how the heck do you do that? I'm like, what? What do you mean? I'll be honest, I got lucky. There could have been more planes in the pattern or something, but I'm like, okay, we should have permission to take off. And then sure enough, prepare for departure, down the runway. And then, dude, we were on a layover flight coming back, dudes. We were on a layover flight going into DC Reagan, right? And look, you can see the highways once again. We were going into DC Reagan, which is an interesting freaking approach. So DC Reagan, see the airport? There's only 2 runways, right? It has the weirdest freaking approach. Usually with airports have multiple runways that go in different directions. But for pretty obvious reasons, you don't fly right here. You don't fly right here for pretty obvious reasons, and you also don't fly right here for pretty obvious reasons, right? But look at the approach for the runway. The approach for DC Reagan is unreal. You literally straddle the river. So the plane is making all these crazy turns, right? And right when it gets to Georgetown, it takes a huge right, and then you fly right past the Pentagon, which is really cool. And I was watching ADSB, and because it's such a gnarly approach, I was like, I saw that the plane was a little bit quick. We touched down at like, I don't know, we were going a little fast. I think we touched down at like 130 knots or something. And I saw that the plane was going down very quickly. And I was like, this landing's going to be a little rough. My brother-in-law was like, what do you mean? And then the guy bounced the freaking landing. He went oink, oink, bounced the damn thing. And he's like, dude, that's nuts. I can't believe, how do you know that? I'm like, I spend a lot of time with winglings, okay? Reagan is a spicy pattern. You saw my house. All right, right on, man. By the way, ULA released a new construction video for Vulcan Centaur. Mind if I partake?
Vulcan Centaur production.
Oh, we will be watching that very quick. Now that you mention it, when we visited DC, I now remember there were no planes in the air. Yeah, Flykin, I don't think that it's wise to basically have somebody in a Cessna fly around over the National Mall. Look, I don't like the crap sandwich in here as much as the next, any more than the next guy. No. So why did they put the airport there? You know what? That's a really good question. Which makes the aerial parade over the National Mall even more special. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, dudes, if there were SAM sites, like if there were buildings in DC that if they detected a threat, like the top of the Capitol building opens up like a Fabergé egg and a freaking missile launcher comes out or something. Like the thing's just like democracy is non-negotiable. Like I'd be like, yep. All right. Well, that's at least we know where the money went. Jeez, like, or like if the Washington Monument opens up, right, and Liberty Prime comes out, and it's like freedom, and then just like Tony Stark something. I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be like, all right, well, hey, that's cool. Dude, there's probably all kinds of SAMs, THAADs, Patriot missiles. There's probably all kinds of stuff up in here. Like, I don't even want to imagine what's around the Pentagon. Like, it's probably like not you, dude. You probably won't even see it. Like, they probably like will pop out of some random building or something, right? Yeah, Joint Base Andrews is over here. Dude, I don't even want to know what kind of defenses that son of a gun has. I think you need to do a special training to fly general aviation around Washington. The airport opened in 1941. Denny, if I had to guess, they opened up DC Reagan because of the Pentagon, because that sounds like the same time the Pentagon was made. Yeah, how about the whole Washington Monument is just a huge missile that comes out and just intercepts something.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Sir, this is a Wendy's. That happens to also be a SAM battery. Yeah, no, exactly, Hoagie. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a Burger King and like Burger King with like a giant burger on top. The burger opens up and a freaking minigun comes out, or like a Sea Whiz or something. I'd be like, yep. Hey, dude, at least, I mean, that's cool. At least it went to something. At least the defense money went to something cool. That's pretty neat. Pentagon, 1943, good connection point. It was probably built to get people to the Pentagon quickly, Denny, if I had to guess. Yeah, the Pentagon was built during defense authorization during World War II because we were woefully unprepared to fight a world war, believe it or not. Reagan National was a small airfield, so it's been a runway since the 19-teens. Yeah. Yep. Pretty cool though. But that was awesome coverage from Das there. Look at that. Das and the boys at NASA spaceflight. It's not just DOS. I can confirm shortly after 9/11 there were Avenger Humvees stationed. I'd believe that. What is the Pentagon for? As a Brit, I have no idea. Is it like our Houses of Parliament? No. No. The Pentagon is the headquarters for the Department of Defense. Jack, for you, that's the Ministry of Defense. It's the MOD headquarters. It was made in 1940. It was made during World War II because we were not ready. I mean, who was ready for World War II? I mean, you could make the argument that the Germans were, but it just turns out that we can get ready really fast. No, it was made in World War II to basically bring a headquarters in the United States for what's called the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The Joint Chiefs of Staff are basically the head of every branch of the military. So JCOS, right? So that's the head. That's the head of the Marine Corps, the head of the Navy, the head of the Air Force. Now the head of the Space Force, Army, the Coast Guard's there. No, Coast Guard is Department of Homeland Security. It's not Department of Defense. That's different. Yeah. So they brought that was basically the place where all the branches of the military could come together to share information, and then also what's it called? The OSS, the Office of basically intelligence agencies too. So like, Jack, think MI5's headquarters, MI6's headquarters, the Ministry of Defense, kind of all rolled into one, dude. The Coast Guard, believe it or not, dude, the Coast Guard does not operate under the Department of Defense. It's Department of Homeland Security. Yeah, it's not a fighting force. That's why. That's where CBP is. Coast Guard is in the same kind of department as the Customs and Border Control. MI6 is like the CIA, though. Yeah. Yeah, Dish. The other thing is that the CIA also has their own independent headquarters, and so does the Army, and so does the Navy, so does the Air Force. Yeah, they all have their own headquarters that are just kind of moved around. Space Force, too. Space Force is in Colorado Springs, if I'm remembering right. They have a new headquarters, too. But the Pentagon was made as the main headquarters, so we could coordinate our war effort better. That's why. And funny story, we just never stopped doing that. Jack is releasing pictures. Let's see. Oh, that's so cool. So it's the headquarters of all headquarters. Nobody said that government was efficient, RT. Nobody ever said that. Give me 1 second. Oh. U.S. almost lost. The U.S. almost lost worldwide comms at the Pentagon on 9/11. Jeez, man. Do we know why that launch wasn't streamed officially? They probably So sorry, I was just reading something. Das said they were doing a rough test of their streaming setup today. Okay, so let me explain, dudes. The whole roof is made of wood, so it burned really well and almost got to the communications and server rooms. Yikes. All right, so why wouldn't they stream it, right? So, guys, I'm not gonna lie to you, and people will probably hate me for this, but so the first flight of Virgin Galactic, the one where Richard Branson was on board, it landed. Don't get me wrong, it worked. That flight was about as dangerous as you can get. The carrier plane and the spacecraft both flew out of their temporary flight restriction. So basically, okay, so let me explain to you how bad that actually is in pilot terms, okay? That is basically the equivalent of driving down the highway at 80 miles an hour, pulling into the dirt, and just driving down the highway off the shoulder, but driving down the highway. Flying out of your temporary flight restriction, I mean, don't get me wrong, the plane's not going to hit a tree, right? But flying out of your TFR is very dangerous because there are planes that are flying on scheduled flight plans and you could hit another plane. Just like if you're driving down the dirt on the highway, you could hit a bump and, swing back into the road and take out another car or something, right? Like, flying out of your flight restriction is really bad. The funny thing is that SpaceX's the Starship test flight flew out of its track. And then they triggered the flight termination system and it didn't work. Luckily, it eventually did its job. But that kind of stuff is super freaking dangerous. It's super dangerous. Look, okay, I'm not trying to be the safety police here. It's not that dangerous, all right? Like, the traffic, the towers and the centers will definitely see you flying out of the TFR. And, they'll be like, we got a number for you to call because they want to know why you did that. Because, maybe you're like, oh, there was somebody that flew into my airspace, so I had to fly out of the TFR or something, right? Or I had a damaged control surface and I tried to nurse it around or something, right? And they'll be, oh, okay, cool. And then there will be an NTSB investigation just to make sure. They're with planes and with flying around on those highways, what we saw on ADSB Exchange, flying around on these highways, they take that super freaking seriously. And the reason why they do that and the reason why there's basically zero tolerance with this is because that's what keeps the industry safe. Now, how often, if a plane does crash, right? And God forbid, I wouldn't want that to happen to anybody. Hopefully there's nobody on board, right? If a plane does crash, it makes all the news, it makes all the headlines, and then people will be like, oh, how safe are actually airplanes? And you get a bunch of people saying, oh, Sam shot it down. You get all this nonsense, right? That's what they're trying to avoid. And so the question is now, it's oh, well, why did it's not that big of a deal. They made it back down, right? But no, if we're going to take commercial space flight as, if we want commercial space flight to be accessible, it needs to be held to the same standards as commercial aviation. If it's not, something like what's happened in the past, when last time we tried to do low-cost space flight could happen again. You don't want that to happen, and that would be catastrophically bad for the entire industry, right? Just and I don't use this lightly, just like Challenger was notoriously bad for space flight. You got to take this stuff seriously. So now, okay, why did I go on this gigantic freaking tangent about airline safety and aircraft safety, etc., etc.? Virgin probably didn't want to stream this because they were probably in a time crunch to fix all of this. Remember, they have to make a profit. You don't make any profit off live streams. It's a marketing exercise, right? Now, some people are more laissez-faire about streaming their failures. SpaceX, Firefly does not care. their rocket will blow up on the pad and they'll be like, "Yep, all right, we'll get them next time." Like, those guys are cool. I've talked to those guys before. They straight up don't care. Now, don't get me wrong. They don't care about failing publicly. That doesn't necessarily mean that the rocket blowing up on the pad is oh, I will never financially recover from this moment. But failing publicly like that and failing forward is something that's very upheld, right? Some people uphold it more than others. Now, they probably didn't want to stream this because they were probably in a crunch to get this thing going and get it going safely, right? Dude, it's like if I'm playing mission mode in Kerbal 1, and I'm so focused on getting the vehicle to work, I'm not really paying attention to chat. Same idea. Same idea. Right? Red box is the TFR. Going off the speed of the drop, it occurred roughly at the arrow. Now, was this for Flight 1 or Flight 2? Yeah, see what I mean? Look. Now, you say, oh, how far did they fly out of the TFR? Well, there you go. That's for today's flight. Oh. If you release a picture-perfect product, you release too late. Bingo. Oh. Huh. There's something we're missing with this, Thomas. That TFR is overpopulated areas, man. The TFR seems to be over truth or consequences in over I-25. That dude, okay, I've been out here. I've been out in New Mexico there. There is nothing. And I mean nothing out there except for TOC. TOC and Las Cruces are the only thing out there. There is nothing in between except, and then there's also White Sands over there, which also is a whole lot of nothing. That TFR looks like it's over truth or consequences, which is, it looks like it's basically right here, which is interesting. What about the secret UFO base? That's not here. That's Roswell. I don't think yeah, that's over there. You're wrong. Nothing equals Bob Lazar's home. Element 115, Jigsy. I'll answer your questions about Kerbal in a second. I saw it, dude. I'm just trying to... Surely they wouldn't do that again. Are you playing Kerbal today? Yep. Roswell is the distraction. The real UFO storage is elsewhere. Give me 1 second. I know you love the clickety-clacks. Okay, cool. That is only the TFR for the area. After the arrow, they went straight to the south. Interesting. I don't particularly, but it's okay. Alright. Okay, you want to know what I'm really doing? I'm literally asking... I'm asking some of the NSF boys about the TFR because I know there's somebody at NSF that knows more about this than me. This does not look right. Like, but... This doesn't look right, but if it's one thing I've figured out with anything that has to do with aviation, spacecraft, or whatever, if it doesn't look right, it's most likely me looking at it wrong. Something I've learned, Valley of Despair stuff, I'm like, that doesn't look right. But I don't know enough about planes to really know if it is right. So I'm not going to say that it doesn't look right, but it seems like it doesn't look right. But I also know that sometimes stuff doesn't look right and it is right. TFR for the rocket launch, but not the flight. The temporary flight restriction is for the drop, dudes. It's for the drop point. So the specific... what I know enough about this to know that that temporary flight restriction is for when the rocket's going off. Just like it would be for Starship, Falcon 9, whatever. FlightAware isn't necessarily most up-to-date with TFRs. Check tfr.faa.gov. Don't mind if I do. The other thing that I kind of noticed, dudes, is that they shut off the ADS-B transponder. I was, you know, we watched the thing group up with November 2-4, right? November 2-4 Gulf Alpha. We saw them go around over it, and they circled around, and the ADS-B transponder seemed to go off right about here, and then the plane flew that way. Now, once again, I'm not sure I know enough about planes to know if... I'm pretty sure I don't know enough about planes to know that if there's a problem. They could... Dude, it could have just taken a second for ADS-B to update. That's actually Occam's razor. It's probably... Because ADS-B, we're talking about it. It's close, but it's still a little bit off, right? The area is spotty with tracking sometimes. Okay. Interesting. Onboard photo. Oh, that's killer, man. Look at that, dude. I love how they have the lem on there. That's killer. It relies on people with big antennas essentially crowdsourcing the tracking. At first I didn't like this design, but now I kind of like it. It's not bad, dude. It's not bad. But yeah, you know, they probably didn't stream it because when you're in a scramble to get this done and get your product working correctly so it doesn't hurt people, live streaming is that like the back of your mind. But at the same time, I do think it I do think that marketing for your product does have a place, especially in commercial spaceflight. You want to make a name for yourself, especially if you're going to move people around. Because, I'll be honest with you. Here, let me just ask you guys a question. And this might be loaded given the subject matter. Would you fly on New Shepard or would you fly on Virgin Galactic? Would you fly on New Shepard or Virgin Galactic? Yeah, Rogue, I hear you. New Shepard, neither, to be honest. Pick one. New Shepard, New Shepard, New Shepard, New Shepard. Why is that? Why? What's the reason? Well, not with me, I'll be honest. The reason with me, the reason is, Rogue, I'm kind of with you. If I'm going to pay to go to the edge of space, I want to be launched on a rocket. Like, you know, like I want the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 ignition. Like, I want that.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
I'd fly on either if they're working correctly. Bigger windows. Tetrapid. What's up, man? 25-month resub. I fly on both if I could. New Shepard is technically a safer design. Why, Gaw? Why is it a safer design? NSL also hasn't killed anyone. That's a good point. Reasons. It actually goes above 100 kilometers. It has an abort system and it's a rocket. So, would it be okay for me to kind of assume, dudes, that the reason why you'd want to fly on New Shepard is because it's flown more? The track record speaks for itself, right? Even the one rocket that had nozzle burn through and blew up, the capsule was fine. See what I mean? You've seen the success that data stands on its own. Yeah. Interesting, right? So you can understand why they would want to just, if they're going to do a test flight, you'd be sure to just want to get this right. Why use New Shepard or Spaceship 2 when you can just duct tape yourself to a GEM63 XL and ride that? I mean, I see what you're saying. But also, I don't think the meat bag could take that, Vulcan. And I know you're kidding, but I actually considered the physics of it in my head for a moment. Yeah, that probably wouldn't end well. I mean, we're just a big bag of water and meat. We're like a big water balloon, and the water balloon can pop. Yeah, this kills the human. I'd wear a helmet. Yeah, me too. Would you be willing to see rockets go the way of the dinosaur if it meant that low Earth orbit was accessible to everyone via spaceplane? Yes. Yeah, I'll desert, of course. Because you're talking... The phrasing behind that question is like conventional vertical takeoff rockets, like in a pod and stuff. Oh yeah, absolutely. Sure. Because rockets wouldn't be going anywhere. We'd still use that for in-space propulsion. Of course. Why would... Delta V is Delta V, man. You know what would be cool? You know what would be really cool? You know what would be really cool? Oh, okay, Jake. I'll check it in a second. You know what would be really cool? If we had, you know, some of you guys clearly like space planes and some of you guys clearly like rockets. It'd be cool if we were somehow able to combine the two. So, like, take the safety of a glider, right? You know, having altitude and being able to come back down, right? And then... Because capsules, you know, landing in water is all cool, but I'd rather land on a runway, right? Take that and then take the kind of reliability of a rocket, you know, going straight up, right? And kind of combine the two. Now, we would have some Delta V considerations. There's a lot of dry mass considerations. You wouldn't want to make an SSTO. You'd need something with boosters, right? And then maybe even like jettisonable engines or something. But, you know, maybe we could make it so we could get our upper stage engines back. So maybe like... I don't know, like a Hydrolox motor or something, you know, and then maybe some solid rocket boosters on the sides. And you know what? We'll put 3 on them. We'll put 3 of them on there just for, you know, safety, right? And then, you know, like this said vehicle could like go up into space and, you know, as long as we're getting our engines back and our people back, we might as well put a payload bay in between, right? A cargo bay. It's a space cargo plane, right? We should do something like that. And then, like, you know, that could carry the upper stages inside of it and then just deploy them in low Earth orbit. And then you could also, like, grab them and bring them back down. That would be a really good idea, don't you think? Can it go to the moon? Well, it wouldn't have to, because it could just build you a spacecraft on orbit to go to the moon. And because it's reusable, you could just, you know, land it and fly it again. Why not Titan II with XV? Because I don't want to fly into space in a damn funnel. I'd rather fly into space on that concept that I'm describing. No reusable tank, fail. Yeah. That's a great idea. What would you call this vehicle? Well, it goes to space, and it would really shuttle a lot of things to and from space. It'd be a really nice transportation system for low Earth orbit access. I would probably call it Bill. Yeah, you call it Bill. But you get to launch a Titan II. But you would rather see a Titan II launch than a shuttle launch? Vulcan, we gotta talk. We gotta talk, man. We gotta talk. If the locking mechanism fails on this thing, do they bail or what's the plan? On what thing, Gully? Billy Sue would be its name. How about we call it the Nixon? Nixon's a good name. Very strong name. I already saw shuttle launches. I never saw a Titan II launch, even though it actually did fly in my lifetime, which is nuts. Titan's cool. I've hugged an LR-87 Vulcan. I mean, I've never seen one launch either, but also, Titan always left a sour spot in my heart because back in the 60s, for defense payloads, at the time, when spy satellites were first becoming a thing, the Air Force chose Titan over Saturn for moving DoD payloads into orbit. They chose Titan. A hypergolic core stage with solid rocket booster side boosters and a Hydrolox or Hydrazine third stage. Hey, yes, I'd like to make my lifter as complicated as possible by using 3 different types of propellants. Now, there's Saturn, which is a Carolox first stage, and a Hydrolox second stage.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Almost like it's Atlas V before Atlas V. If we're on Titan now, I want to talk about the swappable gearboxes. Quick change. The first rocket that could break into the DNC and go to orbit. Hey, Nick. I'm going to well actually you. Nixon didn't break into the DNC. Okay? But he covered for the people that did. Okay? You're not wrong, but also, that was the cover-up. That was Watergate. Watergate wasn't disputing the fact that he was even involved. Richard Nixon wasn't involved with that. He covered the story up. He tried to bury it. That's what Watergate's about. Just in case anybody needed a history lesson there. Him basically gaslighting. He said, "Oh, no, that didn't happen. I'm not a crook." That's what got him in trouble. He didn't even know the thing was going on. And he rightly resigned for it. He also ruined the Apollo program. But I will say, the space shuttle's pretty cool. Like, if I was going to trade the Apollo program for anything, like if you had to, I would trade it for the space shuttle. Sure, absolutely. What are you going to trade it for? Titan? No, thank you. He also screwed Boston's dockyards. Rogue, I love that at the Charlestown Navy Yard Museum, they literally, that is what they overtly say. The Charlestown Navy Yard Museum in Boston, guys, is it's a shipyard museum. The Charlestown Navy Yard was one of the oldest shipyards in the U.S., right? And you know how, like, Groton, Connecticut is, like, submarines, right? Like, that's the submarine capital of, like, that's where all the subs are made. Well, most of them. Ingalls does submarines, too. And you know how, like, Newport News is, like, where aircraft carriers are made, right? There was a time, Boston was, like, the heavy cruiser capital of the U.S. Like, we made all the heavy cruisers and light cruisers. And, yeah, because Nixon didn't like Kennedy, he EO'd the Charlestown Navy Yard. He basically said, no, I don't like that guy from Boston. He defeated me in 1960. I talk like I have a sock in my mouth. And he basically axed the Charlestown Navy Yard because he didn't like Kennedy, which is really funny to me. And you know what the funny part is? The museum says that. The museum is like, yeah, Nixon didn't like Kennedy, so he took his Navy Yard. I'm like, what a dick. What a dick. What is Puget Sound known for? Well, Bremerton. Bremerton built, they built aircraft carriers too, if I'm remembering right, but they maintain aircraft carriers now. They have a mothball fleet at Bremerton now. Well, his name was Richard, after all. Politicians being petty? That never happens. That's weird. Very strange. Anyway, moving on. Don't want to talk about that no more. Here, look at these pictures from Jack. Isn't Bremerton a scrapyard? Bremerton does all kinds of stuff, Meg. They do a little bit of everything. Here, I'll show you. Where they strip old bolts down. Actually, that's Brownsville. Brownsville is the one that does that. Yes, that Brownsville. Next to Starbase. Bremerton's over here. Bremerton is a pretty big shipyard, but I'm pretty sure it's fleet maintenance. But, I mean, you guys would probably know better than me. I mean, well, fleet maintenance jives with the boat that you see on the screen. Oh, two of them. I like that thing. I think that thing is cool. I mean, it's kind of... I know it's kind of a piece of junk, but it does look cool. Could you build LCS in Minecraft? Somebody already did, dude. Yeah. I believe World Killer did, if I'm remembering right. We already have those. Check it out. See? He built both of the Littorals and a DDG and the USNS Comfort. Yep. We have two Nimitz, actually. Linus built that one, and then Drool Bucket built that one. Going to Street View? Nah. See, these are non... Oh, forgive me. Forgive me, sailors. Those are non-com ships, right? United States USNS? Those are resupply vessels, if I'm looking at that right. The ship I was on was built in Avondale, Louisiana. Cool. Nah, they're armed. They have Sea Whiz. I guess. I mean, I wouldn't consider Sea Whiz offensive weaponry, but all right. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure. So, hey, baby, What do you got there? CVN 68. That's the Nimitz. It's not there. This is an old picture. They do that on purpose. What a beauty of a ship that is. Look at that thing. Russian cruiser Moskva is dead? What? What does that have to do with Bremerton, Washington? Ooh, what's over here? Which one is this? This is CVN 71. I forget which one is 71. Yeah, see, it looks like they do fleet maintenance here. Oh, man. Look at all those. Look at all those happy death machines. All right, that's good. Oh, look, there's another one. Oh, look, there's two more. This looks like fleet modernization and maintenance if I'm looking at this right, but who knows? It's the Roosevelt, right on. That's a ferry. Ferry! And that looks like a museum ship. That is 950, hull number 951. So, DD. I don't think it's DDG. I think it's just DD 951. The USS Turner Joy. What do you think, Limprod? Gearing? That's not a Fletcher. It's a gearing. It's something after the Fletcher. It's a Forrest Sherman. Oh, after gearing. Nice. Did you see the short from the... Did you see the short of the Sea Whiz looking hard at a 737 where the crew sternly says, no, 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 no? Yeah, Aldous, you see how crazy that thing can track? Dude, you got to remember, the Sea Whiz is not small. The 20-millimeter close-in weapon system, it's called the Sea Whiz for short. It's a point defense weapon that Navy ships use. It's designed to literally spew enough bullets at an incoming missile that'll shoot it out of the sky. Because if you're going, one of the bullets will eventually hit it. But do you see how fast that thing actually can move? Dude, the Sea Whiz is about as big as a Mack truck, the whole system. It's about as big as a semi-truck, and the thing's just like... I'm like, okay. I remember I did a trigonometry report on those things in high school. Yeah, I did a trig report on the Sea Whiz, and don't get me wrong, the trig was probably incorrect. I think I got a good grade on it, though. Did I really choose to do a trigonometry report on radar triangulation using trig? There's no way I got that math right. There's no way. I probably got a participation trophy. Oh, you did good. Okay. I don't remember getting a bad grade on it, but I don't remember getting a good grade on it either. But yeah, I remember. We had to do a book report in 11th grade. 11th grade trig, and the teacher was like, "You get to choose. Find something that's what was actually cool. Find something that uses trigonometry in real life. Like find a practical application for your math." And I chose a minigun. Nowadays, I probably would choose the space shuttle engines with cosine thrust loss. That would probably be, that's an easy, I see this as an absolute win. That would be an easy win. There's no way I got that math right. Because if I did, there probably would have been people showing up at my house, don't you think? We use them to kill mortars? No way, goalie. Yeah, because the Army has a variant of it, too, that's towed around on the back of a Hemet. That thing's actually really cool. The company I work for builds that crazy stuff. Talas. Oh, that's so rad, man. That's cool. Awesome, Crunch. The question is, why not? Yeah. All right, hang on. I want to see who replied to me, my question. Question? Okay. Guys, a little bit of update on the Unity 25. So, okay. The temporary flight restriction over truth or consequences for the drop. So we saw the temporary flight restriction for the Unity 25 mission basically right here. And they dropped, if you could tell, the different color here is the altitude. So the darker it gets, the higher it is. And that was the track. They shut the transponder off on Spaceship Two. But if you saw it, they dropped over here when the TFR was there. So I got word back that they put a temporary flight restriction here, and they dropped out of that TFR, but that doesn't mean that there is a permanent that there isn't a permanent flight restriction over here, because, you know, that's there. Hey, do you think the orange cone in this picture is still there? So yeah, everything seems to be gravy with that. Everything seems to be gravy with the Unity 25 drop. I was wondering if they flew outside of the TFR again, but yeah, they didn't. The TFR was an extension of airspace in case they needed to drop over there. That's what I'm hearing. By the way, White Sands should be used to things dropping on them. Like what? Like missiles? No, don't be silly. Don't be silly. No, that... No. No. Actually, you guys want to see something cool? So Holloman Air Force Base, right, they do, spoiler alert, they do missile testing there. Oh, funny how that works. It's almost like Holloman Air Force Base is inside of the White Sands missile test range. Funny how that works. Interesting. No, the cool thing is, guys, is check this out. See these things? Those are train tracks that go in a dead straight line for probably about, I don't even know, like 10 miles. Look. See how far it goes? Now, I just kind of blazed through it real quick, right? But here, check it out. "15 kilometers of perfectly straight train track." It's a hypersonic test bed. Yeah. That's where they test. They basically put the missile on a, like, essentially a hypersonic mine cart, and they shoot them down the track to see how they perform. Really cool, actually. Yeah, Holloman has the test tracks, which are, those things are cool, dude. That's really neat. If I could build something in KSP like that, I absolutely would. I mean, you kind of could, but yeah, you see the old tracks there. The new track is right there. Look at that thing. Hypersonic test track. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is hypersonic trains when? Yeah, dude. You could see the damn track from space. See it? That's where Stapp worked too, right? Correct. Yep. I don't think he was using that track. I think he was using the other tracks. Yep. They do all kinds of cool stuff in there. Probably stuff we'll never hear about, but whatever. It's fine. Train-landed rockets. Is it feasible? Sure. Everything is feasible if you're smart enough, Erudite. But the problem is, why? What would be the... It's like when we were talking about landing stuff on the moon. Why? Just make a runway. A runway is easier to make than train tracks. It's easier to make a road than it is tracks. Right? NTTR, UTTR, Fort Irwin, White Sands. Yep. For high-speed launch. On the moon or on like another celestial body or on Mars or something, provided we could make a flat enough train track like that, sure, why not? On Mars, it would make a lot of sense. There's this thing, though, on Earth. There's this thing that makes this kind of difficult. Erudite, I need you to do this for me. That thing that you just breathed in, yeah, that having something accelerate down a train track, like you could do it, but now you need a heat shield because the atmosphere gets in the way. That thing that you're breathing. I think that's air you're breathing now. The EPA. I mean, them probably too, Willie, right? In some way, shape, or form. Hi, I want to do this. Well, we got to see if it affects the environment. Hi, I want to walk down to the store. Nope. Environment. All right. So the atmosphere gets in the way. Because, okay, Erudite, think about it like this. All right. The atmosphere, look, we could see right through it. It's clear. You could see through it. Now, gas does diffuse light. That's why if you see a sunset, it looks like the sun is a different color because there's literally more atmosphere between you and the sun, and it screws with the colors, right? Same thing with the moon, right? You ever notice when the moon comes up over the horizon, sometimes it's red, sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's white. That's because of the light, how much light is either being reflected off of it or how much light is being reflected off of it through the atmosphere, right? Blue Moon. It's a good song. Also, pretty good beer, too. So, just because it's clear and light can go through it doesn't mean it's not mass. It is mass. It has mass. Gas has mass. Rhymes. I got bars for days. Right? So, Aaron, I think about it like this. Just because you can go through it doesn't mean that it's not getting in the way. Literally, if you tried to launch something and get it up to like Mach 5 on a train track and then like somehow have it point up and shoot off out of the atmosphere, you would need a thermal protection system. The reason why is exactly as I said. You have to collide with the gas, which is not that big of a deal, but then you got to push it out of the way. That's the big deal. Because what happens is the gas, when you're moving through a gaseous medium like the atmosphere, right? It can't get out of the way fast enough. You're going so fast that it kind of just sticks. Kind of just stays there, right? And then some of it gets ejected off in a wake, but the gas will compress up against the front of your vehicle in the lower parts of the atmosphere. Heck, if you're going fast enough, it happens up there. What do you think re-entry heating is, right? So that gas, all that atmosphere getting in the way is going to compress air up against whatever you're flying, right? Your rocket that's launched on the train track, right? So what's going to happen is there's this law in physics called the ideal gas law. It's PV equals nRT. That's the formula for it. We could get into the math. What that basically says is that when gas is compressed, it gets hot. When it's decompressed, it gets cold. Pretty straightforward stuff. Now, what happens when your hypersonic train that's going down its track that's trying to launch up into space, what happens when it hits a certain speed? Well, the gas is going to compress up against it. What happens when the gas compresses up against it? It gets really, really freaking hot. It gets so hot and it compresses so hard that at some point, at a certain speed, you will literally rip air molecules apart. You will hit them so fast they will shatter into a bajillion pieces. And when they shatter into a bajillion pieces, that lets out, well, okay, it's not exactly this, but think splitting the atom. What happens when we split atoms? This is what happens when we split atoms. A lot of energy gets released. Now, don't get me wrong. We're not exactly splitting an atom the same way a nuclear blast goes off. That's splitting atomic, radioactive elements, right? Our atmosphere is not radioactive. So what happens when you split air molecules, nitrogen, oxygen? They basically turn to plasma. It'll just release a little bit of energy in the form of plasma. Now, when you split certain atoms, some of them release more energy than others, like plutonium. Plutonium is really good at releasing a lot of energy really fast if you know what you're doing. But I don't like that. I understand why that exists, but power plant would be a better application than flipping aircraft carriers end over end. Whenever I show this picture or whenever it comes up, I always take a second to show it. You see that big dark cloud? That's literally a nuclear blast flipping an aircraft carrier end over end. That's the Saratoga, and the aft end of the ship is literally on the seafloor right now when the picture was taken. It blew up next to the ship underwater, and it made a tidal wave so powerful that the back end of the ship dug into the ground and it pole vaulted itself and cartwheeled end over end, and it landed over there somewhere. Now, it landed, I don't know, like a quarter mile away or something. Now, fellas, the Saratoga is not a small vessel, okay? It's not a small vessel. That's a picture of it with a bunch of people walking around on it. It's not exactly tiny. Splitting the atom is considered a dick move. We can split atoms as long as we do it in a nice, careful, and controlled manner, Roscoe. You can make a lot of power that way. You could either have it fizz out instantly, or you could slow burn the thing. You could flash fry it, or you could slow burn. I prefer slow cooking my nuclear isotopes. Get a lot more energy yield. Well, it's not that you get a lot more energy yield. You're going to get the total impulse of a radioactive element, depending on the quantity, pretty much stays the same. It's just how fast do you want to release the freedom. I prefer slow burn. So what I'm saying is nuclear power plants, not nuclear bombs. But yeah, anyway, Erudite, going back to it, yeah, the atmosphere gets in the way, and it'll create reentry heating. You will have reentry heating on the way up. That's why rockets are pointed straight up to get out of the atmosphere as quick as possible so this doesn't happen. Now, don't get me wrong. It still does happen a little bit, and that's why they throttle down for max Q. Not necessarily because they're worried about heating. I mean, that has something to do with it. Maximum dynamic pressure is basically the point where the rocket can't move the air out of the way fast enough. It literally can't move the air out of the way fast enough, so it's a diminishing return. If you try to push harder, you're just going to compress more gas up against the nose cone of your rocket, and instead of accelerating, you're just going to create heat up at the front of your rocket. And that heat, that compression load on the vehicle will basically try to accordion your rocket. You don't want that. I'm pretty sure we don't want to take pressurized tanks full of rocket fuel and put them in a clamp, because that's basically what you're doing. You have the rocket engine pushing up on the bottom, and then you have aerodynamics pushing on the top and accordion. Yeah, you don't want to do that to the rocket. This kills the rocket. That's why they throttle down for max Q. It's peak structural load. So rockets are basically, Vulcan, I'm going to use your picture. Vulcan took this picture. Derek Newsom took this picture. He's a good photographer for an outfit called Space Scout. Or at least I think he took this picture. Maybe he didn't. Either way, he's the one that linked the picture. Rockets are pointed straight up to get them out of the atmosphere as quick as possible. That is literally what the first stage is for, to release a ton of energy really quick to get out of the atmosphere. The second stage is designed for speed. Did someone say jet train? On the side note of Slick 41, the Vulcan flight readiness firing is at 6 p.m. Yeah, Tori Bruno decided to stream it. I sub you when I get my home paid. Okay. Rough overlay of the White Sands call-up areas. So basically, it doesn't make sense. Well, Erudite, here's the thing. As long as you're obeying the laws of physics, you can do anything you want. Okay? You can do anything you want. I could launch a semi-truck into space. Elon launched his Tesla into space. You can do anything you want. As long as you're obeying the laws of physics, anything is possible. However, your job as an engineer, if you want to become an engineer when you get older, your job as an engineer is to figure out the best way to do whatever you're trying to achieve. Okay? So, if the object here is to get into space, a hypersonic space train, right, that launches on a big railroad track, accelerates to Mach 5, and then somehow pitches up pitches up and flies out of the atmosphere, that would work. It would work, but it might be easier just to build a rocket that just launches up and gets out of the atmosphere without going fast. But then again, the name of the game with engineering is it really depends on what you're doing. It's application. Engineering is about application. That's really the most important part. What doesn't make sense? Just got back.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Nothing. Watch it. Start this at the 211 mark. What do you got for me, Willie? What? What is this? Goalie, is that the hypersonic test train footage? Yeah, the Air Force did release footage of something shooting down the track. You can't even tell what it is, though. It's going so ridiculously fast. Hey, Kenwa. All right, Willie, what's this? So like an elevator, you say? When Worlds Collide from 1951. See, here's the thing, guys. There's nothing saying that this wouldn't work. But, no, sure, of course, you could do this. You could do this with a rocket. You could make a track that goes up the side of a hill. Sure, absolutely. But, okay, some things to consider, all right? You could do this. It really depends on what you're trying to do here. I mean, that's actually really freaking cool because that looks like they made a model railroad set and they have literally a firecracker in the back of this movie piece to make it look like a rocket going off, which is cool. Now, you could do that. Absolutely. Okay, if the only reason that this track that you use to build a rocket to basically the track is the transporter erector at this point. You know how Falcon 9 has a TE that basically turns it upright, right, and gets it up in the air. Which one of those would be easier to engineer? The transporter erector or your multi-mile long piece of track that goes up a hill? Think about it. Which one, Erudite, I want you to consider this. Which one is harder to make? Now, the track is pretty simple. We know a lot about trains, and there's been pretty good research into building hypersonic railroad tracks. Sure, no problem. Right? That's the benefit of doing that. We've built a lot of trains over the years, and we built a lot of trains that go fast. Yeah, Daves, I know what you meant, dude. Yeah, goalie's video. Yeah, you guys really want me to see it. Much better when on the moon. You're jumping the gun. You're jumping the gun. You're right, but you're jumping the gun. Hold on. The transporter erector is easier, I guess. Less resources than a whole track. You guess? Or do you know? Which one's easier to make? How much space does a launch pad take up? How much space will your mile-long track that literally drives up the side of a mountain? Look, how much will that take? Well, look, the rocket's designed to be pointed straight up anyway. It's designed to be pointed straight up because it launches, when it leaves the track, it launches straight up. Why don't you just turn the rocket straight up when you go to take off? Just literally a hydraulic that, and then launch it. That's way easier, right? Now, some considerations here. Some things to note. This sled, it launches off of a sled. And guys, okay, I fully understand that this is a movie, okay? I get it. It's a movie. It's a movie from 70 years ago. I understand. 70, yeah, it's from a little while ago. Just hear me out. Because concepts like this have existed. But see, okay, so the idea is that the thing gets up to speed from a little sled, right? A sled with some solid rocket boosters on it. So technically, this is a staged vehicle, right? That's the first stage, right? I love how they just put little, those are straight up like Estes rocket engines and like a roofing torch built into the back, right? Now, the first stage engines get it up to speed. And you know what the crazy thing about this is? That is pretty accurate to if you were going to, like, okay, it's pretty accurate to how you would build something like this. Why? Why is it? Well, if you notice, when it's on the flat part, only the sled is firing, right? And then they gradually throttle up all the engines. And then when the thing starts to turn vertical, that's when they turn the main engine on, right? That's actually right. The reason why I know that's right is because, look, you want to use that sled just to get going, but you don't want to hit this part of the track going too fast. Why is that? Well, if you do, you're screwing your efficiency. Why is that? Because you're turning upright. Your momentum with physics wants to carry you that way, and the track's going to push you that way. So what are you going to do? What's going to happen when you go to take the turn if you go to take it too fast? The wheels on that railroad cart are going to get compressed. You're going to actually increase your rolling resistance because you're literally pushing down into the sled if you're going too quickly. Yeah, this would also be like going through a loop on a roller coaster going like 500 miles an hour, which you'd probably hurt some people on board. Yeah, unless you were like totally strapped in with like a Hans device or something, you'd probably snap somebody's neck. So your momentum wants to carry you this way. The train track wants to carry you up, but your momentum wants to keep going this way. So the result of that force applied is a force that would push down on the tracks. Can you imagine the load here of a rocket pushing down on this concrete track? Think about that. Rockets and concrete don't jive very well. We figured this one out the other day. They don't jive very well. And it's not just Starship. That's the thing. It ain't just Starship. Rockets destroy flame trenches. Take a look at Slick 41, a very reliable launch pad. See all the patches in the concrete? Look at that concrete. Rocket engines are abrasive to concrete. It's literally like sandblasting a piece of metal. That's what rocket engines do. Look at how much that flame trench has been repaired. I would know. I've stood in this flame trench. Flame trench. I walked down in there. I had the pleasure of doing that. ULA was nice enough to invite Das and I out there to go check it out. Yeah, you think that cone's still there? That cone exists somewhere in the universe. Might not be in one piece, but it exists somewhere. So now, because you decided to launch on this railroad track, right? Now you're dealing with a bunch of different problems. How do we make the support strong enough to handle that force being applied to them? How do you make that work? And you're literally the track turning your vehicle up is literally going to slow your vehicle down. 1, because of gravity. 2, because of rolling resistance. If you remember right, trains don't like going up hills, but that's for a different reason. But you get the idea. This is why we don't see trains that just go over mountains like this. Part of it is like you'd have to rocket power the train, in which case you're running into the same problems. Now the sled, so the main engine fires when the thing turns upright, and now the sled detaches after the SRBs are spent. So, okay, let's think about this. How fast do you think the rocket should be going? Let's just guess, right? Like, I don't know. It's just a movie. Who cares, right? Let's just guess. If you did something like this, how fast do you want that rocket to be going when it leaves the track? Because if it's going, I would say that if it's going any more than like 300 miles an hour, which is what is that, like 450 kph, you're going to run into that whole atmosphere problem again. 88 miles per hour! Hey, I'm not talking about time traveling here, okay? That rocket clearly doesn't have a flux capacitor, all right? Why not paraffin wax your railroad with Teflon additive? It's a rocket sled firework, not a damn skateboard. Okay, so if you did that, yeah, you'll basically just crush the paraffin wax. You're when you go to turn up firework, your wheels on your rocket sled will push down into the rails, and they'll literally compress the paraffin to the point of them probably igniting. I mean, you guys said 88 miles an hour, so I'm gonna guess that you guys don't mind if the wheels catch on fire too, like the DeLorean. I'm just saying. So, Erudite, you see what I'm talking about? Now, don't get me wrong. I am not going to sit here and pretend like I wouldn't want to see somebody try to do this. That would be really freaking cool. But you did all this extra work just to get maybe a couple extra 100 miles an hour? You built all this damn track for maybe, let's think about it, for maybe 100 meters a second delta V. It takes 9 kilometers a second delta V to get into low Earth orbit. So the benefit of all that track, all the stupid sled with its stupid rocket boosters, right? The benefit is getting you an extra 100 meters a second at best. The means don't justify the end. Does that understand, Erudite? Do you understand that? The means don't justify the end. You're gaining a little bit of performance for a lot of freaking engineering. The whole point of engineering is to do the opposite of that. Find the engineering solution that gives you the best performance for the least amount of engineering. Okay? Because this stuff takes time. Engineering something down to like doing all the analytics and all the, well, not analytics, doing all the analysis on engineering, that's just a bunch of bookworm stuff. That's a bunch of number crunching. Dude, engineers, the whole job of an engineer is to do the least amount of number crunching that you can. And it's funny because engineers chose a field where all you do is literally crunch numbers. But the goal is to do the least amount of number crunching. See what I'm trying to say? Elon always says, best part is no part. You know? He's right. He's right. Strip it down to the least amount of number crunching that you possibly can. Refine the application of what you're trying to do to the simplest version of itself. All right? Think about like if you start with a block of marble and you're trying to make a statue. You got to chisel away at it. There's a lot of marble there that you don't need. Right? So it's not just Elon. This is just a principle of engineering. Elon just put it in really simple words. But there's another mechanical engineer in history that shares the same sentiment. That engineer's name is Colin Chapman, and he was an engineer at Lotus. Lotus is they build high performance vehicles, and once upon a time they built Formula One cars. Chapman basically said simplify, reduce weight. Simplify it, reduce weight. Literally try to do the most amount of work with the least amount of parts. Literally the same thing. It's the same idea. Instructions unclear. I made a toothpick. Well, if your application there was to pick stuff out of your teeth, first of all, you should probably be flossing. Second of all, you succeeded in what you wanted to do. So it's a big amount of engineering infrastructure and trouble for a small gain. Correct. This is how engineering works. Literally, an engineer's job is to do the least amount of number crunching, which is, like I said, it's funny because engineers are literally trained to be good at crunching numbers. But you want to crunch the least amount of numbers. That's why every rocket looks the same. Every rocket is a cylinder with some engines down at the bottom. You know why? Because that's the simplest way to do it. And anybody that tries to deviate from that formula, one, people get a lot of crap from trying to deviate from it, like spin launch, which I think is hilarious. Spin launch's idea could work. It could work. Could work. But if you're going to deviate from that formula, you hope you have something good to bring to the table. What if you make the rail straight and accelerate it like a railgun? So now you're going to leave the railroad tracks at an insanely high amount of speed. You're going to leave the railroad tracks at an insanely high amount of speed at sea level, I mean, you could do that, I guess. But, so, say you did that. Okay, so now you leave the railroad tracks going like Mach 1. So first of all, there's not many airplanes around that can do Mach 1 near sea level. Most planes can't do that. Fighter jets can, but they usually don't. The reason why is because anything that's near that plane when it's going that fast, that close to the ground, usually gets blown away in a sonic boom. But I digress. Let's just forget that for a second. So you leave going Mach 1. What kind of control surfaces do you have here to get that thing to steer up? Because remember, you don't want to just pull up, because if you do at that speed and you have a control surface that can affect the angle of attack of your vehicle, leaving this track going Mach 1 at sea level, right? If you have something that deflects downward, like a control surface, think like the control surface is on a bomb or something, right? What that thing's going to do, if you flip them down too much, so first of all, at that speed, if you have too much deflection on your control surfaces, they'll literally just turn into a speed brake and you'll just nose into the ground because you slowed down. So say you have a very, very finely tuned control surface that's just designed to pitch you up just a little bit. Even if that thing goes too far, the thing will just flip over and crash. The reason why it'll flip over and crash is because when you move those control surfaces, it's moving your center of pressure backwards. And if your center of pressure on your vehicle going Mach 1 at sea level with that crazy atmospheric density, right? When you're near the ground, if your center of pressure moves too far back, it'll literally just flip the vehicle over. So you're going to need a long parabolic arc, right? To basically do what the railroad track was supposed to do in that analogy. Max Fox, thank you very much for the raid. Let me finish here. Then we'll talk. I'm nerding out right now. Just let me do my thing. Trust me. Don't go. Just give me a second. So you have to somehow do what the railroad track wanted you to do. There's not many control surfaces out there that can do that. So now you're engineering a new control surface, a control surface that's never existed before. And even if you take something off the shelf, like a grid fin or something, which is designed to work at supersonic speeds, now you have to re-engineer a grid fin for your application. So once again, now you're getting into engineering control surface things on your rocket, and even if you make a control surface that gets the rocket upright, going a little bit faster than what it already would be going if you just launched it vertically, right? What's the point? Because you could just launch it vertically. Just point the thing up and hit the go button. Now you don't even need the control surface. Thrust vector control could do it. Swordfish, yeah. A thrust vector control system could do it, but TVC is not very stable when your rocket's going down the runway like that. Because even if you turn your center of thrust away from your center of mass, what's stopping you from flipping over and crashing? This is why airplanes have horizontal stabilizers. So like during takeoff, the thing just doesn't do this and crash. And ailerons too, right? What do you think about deep underground colonization as a test bed for a moon base? I think for the price of going down that far, Beefy, we should probably just go to the moon. I mean, going down that far underground gets very challenging very quickly. Because you see this in mines all the time. Like very deep underground mines. If you get to the very bottom of said mine, the passageways are so ridiculously small. Because, I mean, it does depend on what you're digging through. The passageways are so ridiculously small because if you think about it, that tunnel that you made has to hold up literally miles of dirt above you. You're engineering something that's literally just, this is why mining is a freaking art, man. Like, it's not easy to do. It's not just, well, go down there and dig a hole, huh? No. There's a little bit of civil and structural engineering involved here because you want to get the resources, but you have to take the resources out of a place where you have literally millions of tons of dirt above you. And it's really easy to have those millions of tons of dirt basically want to be where you're trying to get. Does that make sense? I honestly think it would be cheaper to just go to the moon. Hey, Max Fox, 4:06 a.m. All right. Thank you for the raid. I do appreciate it. How goes the sword swallowing? Good. Good. Well, if you already have a mine, yeah, maybe. I don't understand how... But, see, Aqualix, the whole... Oh, is that PIO? Hellfish? Yikes. Oh, boy. Sword swallowing is good. I'm still alive. I've been running a circus tent for 2 weeks. Cool. Did you have fun? Well, that's a stupid question. Boring discussion. It was a boring conversation anyway. Everything's fine down here in the mine here. Now, how are you? We have a reactor leak. Very dangerous. Huge reactor leak. Just give us a second to lock it down. Right, because a lot of moon bases are considering underground bases. Correct. Yeah. So, Beefy, if you're asking that question from, like, a mining standpoint, yeah, learning how to mine through lunar regolith would probably be a good idea. But, see, Beefy, the funny thing is that you ain't far off. Check this out. So, NASA astronaut group 23, the 23rd class of NASA astronauts selected in 2021, called the Flies. Pretty talented group of individuals, if I do say so myself. Let's go down here. Denise Burnham here is one of the astronauts that was selected in this class. Check this out. For over a decade before her astronaut career, Burnham has led offshore drilling operations in various locations around the United States and Canada. Burnham currently serves in the United States Navy Reserve as the XO of a shipyard operations unit in Alameda, California. NASA's newest class of astronauts has a oil drilling engineer. So Beefy, you ain't far off. Yeah, that's right. We should be practicing that. I'm pretty sure that that's NASA pretty overtly saying that we're considering this. You know what I mean? Yeah, I always hate that, dudes. I always hate that. Okay, two things. I always hate that I see astronauts that are either A, younger than me, or B, my age. I really don't like that. Also, on a side note, when did professional athletes start looking like children? I hit that point. You guys know what I'm talking about? You guys know what I'm talking about? I hit that point. You know, when you're growing up, you see your favorite sports, athlete, right? And they always look older than you. I hit the point sometime around the pandemic where professional athletes literally look like children to me. I don't like that at all. She's better to look at than Bruce Willis. That's fair. Yeah, Alabama. I hit that point sometime in the last 5 years. I wasn't exactly sure when it happened. I think I can pinpoint it. When the Patriots selected Mac Jones as their quarterback to replace Tom Brady, I looked at Mac Jones. I'm like, that is a child. You look 16. You're 23? Oh, God. I hit that point when rookies were the same age as your oldest child. Dude, Killpot, I don't like it at all. I don't like it at all. It's terrible. At 43, I know what you mean, though. Especially with footballers in the UK, right? Yeah, exactly, MP, right? Another possible idea I had was a standard vertical takeoff rocket that's 3 stages. A booster with a toroidal ring, since you said it's good for control and gliding. A second stage is a nuclear tug for a space plane. Third stage, and the tug is used to send the space plane to its destination, and the space plane has tiny, tiny fuel tanks for redundancy and for landing on places where you have no runway or not enough aero or no aero at all. Spaceplane can redock to the tug to return from the moon and Mars, etc., etc. Thoughts? Erudite, why is the third stage a spaceplane? Why is your third stage a spaceplane? What is that spaceplane supposed to do? I'll entertain it, dude. Don't get me wrong. Don't make this a habit. I'll entertain your idea. Okay, Erudite, the big thing here is, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? What's your goal with this launch vehicle, other than, oh, I want a flyback first stage with a nuclear second stage because I know nuclear is good, and a space plane on top because I like reuse. What's your application here? What's your use case? What is this thing supposed to do? Think about it. Weigh it. What are you trying to do here? You're trying to make something that is fully reusable that can go to Mars and back? I need to gather up all that space junk. Willie, whoever figures out a way to wrangle space junk and bring it back down, preferably for recycling, is going to be a billionaire. Whoever figures out a really good way to do that, oh yeah. There's a lot of money there. Not in environmental cleanup. There's a lot of money there because satellites have a lot of gold on them. And platinum, and chromium, and silicon. It's basically a big floating computer. There's a lot of precious metals on those things. Yeah, whoever does that and figures out a way to recycle satellites on orbit can make a lot of money. I kind of have a daydream sometimes to be a space junker with a small shuttle-style craft would be cool. Mm-hmm. You know maritime laws don't apply there. So when are you launching your business? I'm not sure I could think of a way to do it. All right, Erudite. Spaceplane. Don't contract stuff. Just type out spaceplane for the love of God. Spaceplane will mostly do low Earth orbit missions, hence the spaceplane design. But now that I think about it, what about making the third stage like Starship, but it doesn't do the flip? Screw bringing it back down, recycle them on orbit. Either one. See, Erudite, you took my question as, oh, EJ doesn't approve of that. That's how you took that question. Oh, but now that I think about it, no, not now that you think about it. That's not what I asked. What are you trying to do here? If I asked, what are you trying to do, and you said, oh, your answer is basically, I don't know. You don't know. Okay, so what's the point of your vehicle? So I asked, what are you trying to do? And then you said, no, never mind. Now, maybe I should do this. See what I mean? Now you're engineering something and you're not even sure what you want to make. That's not engineering. That's just a coloring book. Don't do that. Before you even go thinking about design. And you could apply this logic to Kerbal, or if you want to be an engineer when you grow up, do it. This logic applies to real life. It's not like I'm just talking out of my tail here. I know a lot of engineers. You have to think about pretty long and hard about what you're trying to get done. That's where it starts. And the sooner you get that idea solidified, the easier it would be to come up with a good solution. The logic applies pretty well to just about everything you do in life. Yeah, Alex, that's why I like engineering so much. It makes sense. There's a lot of things in this world that don't. I have a bottle cap, by the way. That's what you're hearing. You have to understand what you're like. You don't even know what you want to make. You know what I mean? And Erudite, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be a jerk, and I'm not trying to discourage you from thinking about this stuff. What I'm trying to do is get you to. I mean, if you really want to do this, right? You have to. The sooner you learn this, the better. Trust me on this one. It's not. It's not that I'm trying to discourage you. It's not that I'm trying to be mean. I dropped the bottle cap. Right? This is what you have to do if you want to engineer. And like, that's not really open for interpretation. Your use case is so ridiculously important. That's like saying I want to be a mathematician and not understanding addition. Yes, I want to be an expert in calculus. Okay, what's 2 plus 2? Well, now that I think about it, it might be 8. It might be 5. Chair. See what I mean? And Erudite, this is what I mean. You gotta go back. If you want to learn this stuff, you gotta go back to scratch. You gotta go learn the math first. If you want to be a mathematician, you gotta learn the basics. If you don't understand use case with the application of engineering, you're gonna be a terrible engineer. You'll never be an engineer. You know what I mean? And once again, I'm not trying to say that to discourage people. Engineering is awesome. It's really cool. It is our way of conquering our domain with numbers. It's awesome. Very, very, very cool stuff. Most things that are really, really freaking cool are really, really hard to do. Most actions that are the hard path in life are the ones that are usually worth it. Okay? Figuring out use case is super important. Once again, I'm not trying to discourage you, right? But if you want to do this, you got to make sure you get that. You got to make sure you understand the basic fundamentals of this stuff before you go to try to do the cool things like nuclear tugs and space planes and all that other stuff. I mean, look at me, dude. I know tons about this stuff. I wouldn't go build a rocket. Maybe soon. But even then, I wouldn't build like a nuclear powered tug. I don't think I could. I'm not smart enough to do that. So, yeah, I'm encouraging you to keep digging. You got to get this stuff right, and you have to know it's stone cold, and you have to be disciplined in this stuff. It took me forever to figure this out. Like, Erudite, how many times you see me build something in Kerbal and it just blows up in my face? How many times you see me the other day when I was doing the pinion seal on the truck and realized that I couldn't get the pinion seal on because there was already a seal on there, and I didn't understand how the seal attached to the rear end? See what I mean? It's not just... I'm not like some infallible thing, you know? I'm still learning too. I'm learning and teaching myself how to work in the car with chat's help. You guys help me a lot. I can tell you, the truck wouldn't be as good good as it is if it wasn't for you guys, right? We managed to screw up the U-joint, but we learned from it. Yeah, so, like, once again, don't be like, oh my god, EJ embarrassed me in front of all these people. Dude, I embarrass myself in front of all these people on a daily basis, all right? Sometimes you got to sack some pride to learn something. It's like you have a balance, like your bank account, of pride, and sometimes you gotta cash that check to learn something. It's called failing forward. Another important thing to understand. Me, I have no shame when it comes to learning. I will make the stupidest mistakes and I'll own up to it. And then we'll fix it and we learn and it won't happen again. Simple as that. I don't want to be an engineer. What do you want to be? Yeah, I don't know, but some people aren't ready. Some people aren't ready to admit that, you know what I'm saying? Some people ain't ready to admit that. At least I admit it. I'm not perfect. I get stuff wrong all the time. All right. It happens, man. Like, and anybody that says it doesn't happen is a nutcase. Here's a fun thing. The whole maglev space gun has been thought of and had its numbers crunched. A mass driver inside of a vacuum tube up the west side of the Andes with that ultra-fast vacuum door spin launch has already demonstrated would be perfectly viable first stage replacement. The biggest problem is actually just the fact that heavy industry infrastructure isn't there compared to established launch sites. And that's what I mean, Aqualex, you know. That would be easier to engineer. It's a lot more practical engineering, right? Civil engineering is something that gets practiced more than aerospace engineering, right? You're trading your complexity somewhere else, and you're trading it for a type of engineering that's a little bit easier to do and something we have more experience in. But it's not just a trade-off between engineering disciplines. Sometimes infrastructure has a lot to do with it. If that wasn't the case, then we'd have launch sites. 39A would have been built at Kwajalein Atoll, right? How many starships are too many? Also, we were talking about that hypersonic test sled. Do you want to see what that looks like? Here, take a look. Wait for it. You might miss it. Yeah, that's what I mean. You're going to have that separate from the test sled and then try to fly up into space. Whoever figures that one out, that could be pretty profitable, whoever figures that one out. What was that hypersonic test sled, Rogue? Oh, it's gone. Ready? Bye-bye. I guess I got ideas, but not the logic and the other stuff. I wanna, if I get the money, obviously, get the engineers and have them streamline and make my idea in its best, most reasonable form. It's all good, don't worry. Yeah, Erudite. Unfortunately, ideas are the easy part. That's the part that doesn't cost much. That whole other thing that you talked about, that's the part that's hard to do. But, like I said, most things that are difficult, challenges, are usually worth doing. Because either A, you're going to do it, in which case, great, good job. You did something awesome that nobody else can do. That's pretty freaking cool. Or B, you will fail miserably and you will learn from that experience that there's a reason why people don't do that. Either way, is you're going to get something out of it. So okay, you might lose a lot of money in that whole second scenario there, but whatever. It's your money. Whatever. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it, chat. I'm not going to say it. It's your money. Yeah, nope, not doing it. Oh, hey, a different picture of said test bed. How's the head? I woke up with pretty consistent headaches every day this week. You're not the one embarrassing you. You're teaching me. I'm the one embarrassing yourself right now. Well, like I said, oftentimes when you're learning, you trade pride for knowledge. Then, look, like I said, it's the internet. I'm never going to get anything right. Even if I do get it right, somebody will still say I'm wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I learned a long time ago that just check your ego over here, because you're not that good. Okay? I'm talking about me. Like, just leave the ego at the door. Come in here and learn. And sometimes I'm not perfect even in that regard. Ooh, hypersonic boundary layers. Very nice. Very nice. Actually, sometimes you get things right. Yeah, Foodface, you're wrong. No, Colonel Sanders, you're wrong. Mama's right, Tara. Yeah, Noswolf, I'm not sure if waking up with a headache is because I got beamed off the head or because I streamed for 17 hours the other day and then got like 5 hours of sleep and then woke up and streamed 13 hours yesterday and then got like 5 hours of sleep. And today for whatever reason, I went to bed at like 2. And because before I started doing this crazy schedule, I've been waking up at 9 every day, and my body's just like, it's 9 a.m., wake up. And I'm like, oh, okay. Headaches probably because of that, not because I necessarily got beamed off the dome piece. So 9 hours stream today and 7 hours of sleep? Nah, I'll sleep on the weekend, dude. I told you I wanted to dude. I felt bad about taking so many days off. And guys, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. In June, I'm not going to be here very much. You know, you know why. If I just go MIA, yeah, that's what, yeah, you figured it out. Yeah, I felt bad about not working hard enough. It's one of those things that you don't really anticipate when you work for yourself. You don't know if you're going to put food on the table tomorrow, so taking time off, man, you get the guilt trip run on you. It's ridiculous. That and I like working. Where's the honeymoon at? I don't know, Stoner. I don't know if we have enough money for it. No, I'm not asking for... nope. Don't do it. I'm not asking for tips. The real truth is that we don't know how much money we're going to have because we have a pretty damn good amount of money stacked up for the wedding, dude. We don't know how much money we're going to have left over. That's why we don't know where we're going to go for our honeymoon. But we will have money left over. Dave, you passed your FAA Part 107 commercial drone. Plan to get into aerial photography, photogrammetry. Lets me get into aviation in a way I can't afford without risking life and limb. Cool. Years later now, we are going to Jamaica. Jamaica 6-6 for 9 days. Nice. Go to your backyard. I don't know. You don't want ideas? No, God, not really. I don't really want ideas because wherever we do choose to go, I don't really want it to be anybody else's ideas but Brimo and mine. You know what I mean? If I'm going to get like real for a second. Anybody here that's ever gotten married in a, you know, that's not just going to a church and just getting like eloping really, really fast, right? Anybody here that's actually had like a traditional wedding knows that, you know, when you have a traditional wedding, man, you just get a lot of people telling you exactly what they want. I cannot tell you how many times someone has told Bree or I, hey, it's your wedding. Do what you want. You should do what you want. But here's what I think you should do. And here's what I want you to do. I would have a lot of money if I had a nickel for every time somebody said that to me. You know? Come to London so I can call you nasty things in person. Yeah, see what I'm talking about? See what I mean? Oh, dude, it's terrible. You know, Impy, you want to hear something ridiculous? They were like, it's your bachelor party. You should go wherever you want to go. All right, I want to go to Vegas. No, don't go there. Why? It's Vegas. It's going to be too expensive. My best man lives there. We get discount. He gets local discounts. It's not going to be too expensive. Oh, do you really want to go to Vegas? You really want to do that? Why Vegas? Why do you want to go? Why do you want to go there? I wouldn't want to go there. I'm like, well, it's not your bachelor party. So it's funny how that works. That conversation I had verbatim with my family. I was like, oh, that's funny. And then again, you should go wherever you want, just not there. I'm like, oh, so that's changed now because 5 minutes ago it was. You could go wherever you want, period. Okay. Good to know that that's changed. Okay. I got a couple more links here for Space News, and then I actually want to go mess with KSP-1, guys. We need to go get reacquainted. Anyway. So, yeah. I like working. I like working hard. Let's do it. All right. So first, to get us in the mood. Now, the reason why I want to do it is because we're going to switch back over to Space News in about, 3-4 hours. Because Vulcan has a flight readiness firing, a static fire of the first orbital ULA Vulcan rocket. So,
Vulcan Centaur
check that out.
production begins with aluminum sheets, expertly machined to remove more than 2/3 of the weight, resulting in the structurally strong yet lightweight orthogrid panels that form Vulcan's propellant tanks. The panels are then bump pressed to form the curves required to complete the tanks.
Oh, that.
At
Look
the
that
same
metal
time,
break.
rings, adapters, and other structural components are precision milled. Next,
Precision.
the aluminum
For
domes, panels, and other structures that form Vulcan's propellant tanks are first cleaned and etched to a smooth, even surface, and then anodized to harden and prevent corrosion.
Nice.
Following an ultrasonic inspection, 5 completed panels for the liquid methane tank are assembled and joined together using friction stir welding.
Aluminum
Unlike
tubes.
traditional welding, where filler material is used to join components, friction stir welding uses a head to stir the metal of the 2 panels together as it moves down the seam. The resulting joint is stronger and produces a lighter weight, higher performing tank. The process is repeated to create the liquid oxygen, or LOX tank, followed by attaching domes to complete the tanks. Circumferential friction stir welding is then used to join the 2 propellant tanks that comprise the Vulcan booster. As production continues on the booster stage, stretch-forming gore panels for the
Watch
Centaur's
this.
second stage propellant tanks is underway. The stainless steel gore panels are welded together to create the propellant tank domes. The gore welder is one of several highly specialized welding stations in the Centaur production process. Just down the aisle, Centaur 5's massive intermediate bulkhead is mated to its ultra-thin tank. Once both propellant tanks are welded, they're mated together to create the Centaur 5 second stage. Before moving to final assembly, the 5.4-meter booster welds are sprayed with foam insulation, followed by booster mask and paint. Twin BE4 engines are individually hot-fired prior to making their way to the factory. They are then mated to Vulcan's thrust structure and protected by a heat shield. With production complete, Vulcan's first and second stages depart the Decatur
Nice.
factory and make their way to ULA's rocket ship to begin their journey to the launch site. Meanwhile, at Cape Canaveral's Space Launch Complex 41, modifications have been made to the launch pad to accommodate the Vulcan
Right,
rocket.
Dudley?
The water suppression system has been upgraded and tested, along with other updates, including new, larger fuel storage tanks. Additionally, in the Vertical Integration Facility, or VIF, platforms have been modified to accommodate this larger vehicle. Following the journey to Cape Canaveral, the Vulcan components are offloaded from rocket ship and transported to the VIF, where they are lifted onto the newly constructed Vulcan Launch Platform, or VLP. The vehicle then travels 1/3 of a mile to the pad to fill both propellant tanks, followed by flight readiness firing of the booster stage.
That's a little bit later today. Dude, that new ML though. Vulcan has a brand new mobile launcher, and it's designed to fit in the jig for Atlas V's mobile launcher. See that? Yeah, so one pad can launch 2 rockets with completely different architecture. I wonder if the FRF will be a standard operation for Vulcan launches or a one-time deal. Goes like, I know that tower. Hey, look, rocket train. It's just track mobiles. We're my Alco switchers, man. Anyway. In the future, ULA will transport rockets in this. Alright, I'll check that in a second. Vulcan. Okay, so I have no idea. I don't know the answer to that question. If I had to throw my hat into the ring, though, I would say a flight readiness firing is a one-time deal. Because if it wasn't a one-time deal, it would have a different name. Like ULA is very traditional in their naming. You know, how it's like booster engine cutoff, main engine cutoff. The main engines are technically the RL-10, right? Which is seems like it's carrying over space shuttle naming nomenclature, which reject modernity, embrace tradition. So if they're using, ULA tends to use a very traditional naming system. So if they're calling it a flight readiness firing, that means that I'm guessing that it's going to be a flight readiness firing that is somewhat similar to the space shuttle's FRFs. The pad, Slick 41 is not really designed for a full duration burn, right? So it would be like the shuttle's FRF, and if I had to guess, my gut's telling me that it's a one-time deal. I don't think they'll static fire every booster. Is this rocket better than SpaceX's? Well, Razzie, if we want to reduce that thing to its absolute base element, man, it really depends. Like, reduce it to its absolute base element. If it can do what the customers that want to buy the rocket want it to do, then by technicality, it's a better rocket, right? But something that's important to consider is that the market for commercial rocket launches, even now with the crazy bolstering of commercial space flight, etc., in the recent 5 years, like the last 5 years, doesn't necessarily mean that you're not, like, the market isn't, like, fully competitive. I see people make this mistake all the time. They say, oh, ULA's rocket costs way more. SpaceX can do it for cheaper. Or, oh, Blue Origin's rocket costs more. Or, oh, why aren't we just using SpaceX? They're the cheapest solution. I think folks need to understand, Raz, that it's really not about who can do it for the cheapest way just yet. Because at this moment in time, rockets are still not necessarily reliable enough to let the commercial market just kind of do its thing. Personally, I don't think we should ever get to that point, but call me old-fashioned. So the point that I'm trying to make, dude, what it comes down to, with that being said, short story now. So, like, this is the condensed version. This is the TLDR. Even if SpaceX's rocket can do everything better than Vulcan, which there are some things that Vulcan can do better, like if you look at it from a straight engineering point of view, right? Even if Falcon 9 is cheaper, more reliable, etc., ULA's biggest customer is Uncle Sam, so the Department of Defense, right? And the Department of Defense will always want two ways to get into space after the fiasco that was Challenger. Yeah. The United States Department of Defense will never, ever single source a rocket architecture. So we're using Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy, and we're only going to use that. That will never happen. And if it does, it will... like, don't get me wrong, I shouldn't say that will never happen. Let me put it like this. It's not happening anytime in the near future. Single sourcing your launch contractor, so like one rocket that does everything, is rockets aren't at a point they're reliable enough to be able to do something like that. So if that rocket has a problem, now you can't launch anything into space. They ran into this problem when the Department of Defense and NASA tried to get the space shuttle to just do everything. No need for an expendable rocket. The space shuttle can launch it. Okay, the space shuttle has a problem and it's grounded for 2 years. Now you can't launch anything for 2 years. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. So, and once again, that's what I think a lot of folks kind of look over in this day and age. That even if Vulcan was... Even if Vulcan is redundant to Falcon 9 in every way, shape, or form, it would still exist. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not. Vulcan is a great rocket in its own right. You'll see. You'll see today when we see the FRF. It's a good rocket. It's a good design. I really like its upper stage. The upper stage on Vulcan is a game changer. Honestly, yeah, game-changing upper stage. However, at the end of the day, the Air Force will choose two providers, and ULA is the tried and tested approach. And sometimes you have to meter your expectations. But that doesn't mean that the Air Force wouldn't, or in the Space Force at this point, wouldn't want SpaceX to launch their stuff either. The whole point is that they want two providers, not one. Or at least one provider with two completely redundant rocket designs. So in the past, right now, the two prime contractors for launching defense payloads into space are SpaceX and ULA. They won the National Security Space Launch Contract Launch Services Procurement Phase 2 contract award, buzzwords. So at the end of the day, they're always going to choose two. Okay. They're always going to choose two. So it's not really about, is it better than this rocket? Is it better than... It could be redundant to Falcon 9 in every way, shape, and form, and they'd still get picked. Or, and it's not just like, I'm not trying to insinuate that ULA rests on their laurels and just said, yeah, of course we're going to get picked. No, they had to bid just like everybody else. It doesn't matter if, you know, Boeing came forward and was like, we have a rocket that's redundant to Falcon 9 in every way, shape, or form. It would still get picked because they want two rockets. Even if Falcon 9 is better in every way, which it's not when it comes to ULA's Vulcan. Vulcan is a good rocket. Very, very, very tried and tested approach. You know it's going to, you can take, like sometimes going with what you know is the right idea. You know what I mean? Is Vulcan reusable? Yes. It's partially reusable, Marco. Vulcan will, not this version of Vulcan, but versions of Vulcan that are coming in the near future will actually do this when the rocket flies. It will jettison the engine like that.
Discovery.
Like that, but in space. Vulcan, ULA is pioneering an idea called smart reuse. SMART stands for some acronym, and the whole point behind that acronym is trying to insinuate that their reusability is better than others. Whatever. Vulcan is built in such a way to basically jettison the engines, and the engines have parachutes. Why? Why is that? Well, the engines are the most expensive part by a long shot. Yeah, propulsion is like 80% of your budget when you're building a launch vehicle, at least. Like I pulled that number out of my tail, but it has to be that at least. If you don't have a good rocket engine, you ain't going anywhere. Look at Starship the other day. If your rocket engines don't work, you made a very expensive firework. Right? Hey, Cirrus, 5-month resub. Thank you. Sensible modular autonomous return technology. So basically the idea is that the engines will jettison after the booster shuts off, and a expandable heat shield will deploy in front of them, and the rocket engines with the heat shield will go back down. They'll re-enter through the atmosphere. The heat shield will move all that out of the way, and parachutes will deploy, and the heat shield will basically drop in the water, and a recovery boat will go grab the rocket engines with the heat shield. The heat shield will stay inflated and acts as a flotation device for the rocket engines, and then a crane can just pick it up and put it on a boat. The cool thing about that, dudes, and I shared this as news, but I think it warrants time to, it's a good idea to show it again. If that sounds far-fetched, right? ULA had a secondary mission on one of their flights, on an Atlas V. They had a secondary payload on this Atlas V that they launched a little while back. So this Atlas V flew up into space. I honestly don't remember what mission it was. I don't remember what was the primary mission. Oh, JPSS-2, Joint Polar Survey Satellite. Well, there it is deploying the JPSS-2 satellite. Thank you, Creeper. And then it had a secondary payload. Look at that. The inflatable heat shield demonstrator called Lofted. ULA is partnered with NASA to make the inflatable heat shield. It's spinning for stabilization. Think like spinning a top. Yes, that's gyroscopically stabilized, or a bullet spinning through the atmosphere. Lofted came down, and it splashed down in the ocean near Hawaii. See, there it is. Sploosh. And then they went out and got it. See, it's floating right there? Now, if this was the reusable one, there'd be two rocket engines right here. And they fished it out, and they brought it back. Actually, we listened to a press conference about the data that was gotten from the Lofted experiment. Lofted actually didn't suffer any. This is from NASA now. Lofted did not suffer any degradation of the heat shield. The inflatable heat shield basically straight up resisted the reentry heating. Yeah. Crazy material science, believe it or not. Yeah. The NASA representatives in that press conference that we watched, and keep in mind this was back when JPSS-2 launched. This was like a week after it. We listened to the press conference on here. The NASA scientists basically said that the heat shield was so intact that they would be, and this was even after looking through some data, they said the heat shield was so intact they wouldn't be afraid to just launch it again. Like, just literally deflate the heat shield, put it back on a rocket, and send it again. You just repack it like a parachute, which is really freaking cool. And then after that, somebody in the press conference asked them about applications of Lofted other than smart reuse, and the NASA scientist basically said that, like, we could use it to make Cygnus reusable. For instance, Cygnus is a resupply spacecraft that goes to the ISS. It's launched by Northrop Grumman. Cygnus with a lofted heat shield on the back, you could bring the whole freaking capsule back down. Right? And then they talked about after that if they theoretically did that, they could bring back down ISS modules with the lofted heat shield, which is, that's what I want to hear. Yeah. That's what I want to hear. The whole module minus the solar panels, correct. Mm-hmm. That gives you, I'll be honest with you, that gives you down mass capability something on par with the space shuttle. Like, Cygnus with a lofted heat shield could bring down a good amount of cargo. I mean, those Cygnus capsules, Alucard, are not small. I've seen them. I've seen one up close. It's big. It is a bigger vehicle than you think. Yeah, Cygnus is gigantic. Think like, I'm trying to look through and see if we can find it. There we go. That's a good enough picture. Or, it could just be blank. This is coming from America Space. Yeah, see? That's them putting the Cygnus capsule onto its service module. S-Master's been trying to get your input. Yes? The Kahana 2 fished it out. It's interesting, WW. I haven't looked too much into it. All right. The front drive shaft has about 20 degrees of rotational play. The rear drive axle has no play. Driving home from Brooklyn right now. Here's a graphic on ULA Smart Reuse plans. Yeah, this is a really old graphic, but yes. Yep. See? So yeah, the heat shield has been tested, dudes. ULA is going to do smart reuse. You know why? Because ULA has the contract for the largest block buy of rockets in human history. ULA positioned themselves to be the rocket that moves Amazon's internet satellite constellation, Project Kuiper, into space. Okay, what I'm trying to tell you is Jeff Bezos bought 38 Vulcan launches. 38 Vulcan launches from ULA. That's not even all of it. 9 Atlas V missions on top of that. And what was it? 12 Ariane 6 missions and like 12 New Glenn missions. It was the single largest purchase of a block buy, so like a bulk purchase of rockets in human history. Yeah. And dude, the funny thing is that when they released it, everybody was like, everybody would ask Tory Bruno and ULA, are you guys going to do, you guys should do reuse. You guys should do reuse. And Tory Bruno, being the Chad that he is, was very careful with his words. He said, we will do reuse if the economic conditions are right. The economic conditions are right. Yeah, ULA is like, oh yeah, we're doing that. Sure, absolutely. Yep. He really hates Elon? No, he doesn't. Tory Bruno doesn't hate Elon. No. Doesn't hate Elon at all. I bet you Tory Bruno really likes what SpaceX is doing, to be honest with you. Like, I don't speak for the man, but he's said many times that it's okay to love more than one rocket. I bet you he really digs what SpaceX is doing. But you got to remember, he's the CEO of ULA. He runs the company. He can't go around saying that other people's rockets are better than his. Why would you do that? Elon doesn't do that. Elon says Elon does the opposite of that. Why should he do that? No. Absolutely not. Tory Bruno's always kept it real when it comes to the launch market. He says the stuff that people don't want to hear. And the thing that he always said about reuse is that it only makes sense if somebody buys a lot of launches. And he's absolutely right. And then all these random people that are looking for a fight on the internet, keyboard warriors, would go, well, SpaceX is doing reuse. SpaceX is doing reuse. And he said, yeah, they're doing reuse. That's great. There's no market for it. The reality is that the SpaceX fanboys were kind of right in that regard, but they were right for a reason they didn't even understand. Falcon 9 makes sense when you employ it in mass to build Starlink. In which case, Falcon 9 is not the profitable avenue here because you're launching your own satellites. The satellite network is the profitable venture here. So, interestingly enough, what Tory Bruno still says makes perfect sense. Reusability is never going to make sense financially. You have to have other ventures. And he's absolutely right. Funny how that works. The guy that's been working in U.S. aerospace industry for like almost half a century is right about something. Funny how that works. It's almost like he knows what he's doing or something. There's a reason why he runs United Launch Alliance. Just saying. Is Elon's rocket smart, or does he just have a lot of... Is Elon rocket smart, or does he just have a lot of rocket smart people working for him, or both? Zombie, I will say this completely unbiased. He knows what he's talking about. He knows rocket science. Absolutely. He absolutely does. But it's important to understand that if you're the boss of a company, your job as the boss is to surround yourself with people that are insanely smarter than you. Your job as the boss is to literally be the stupidest person there. Think about your job. Is your boss an idiot? Yep. Just saying. Just saying. Not the first time Lofted Tech would be considered for cargo recovery. S-Master, I'll get back to it in a second. Just bear with me here. I'm on a roll with the space stuff, dude. Let me go. Let me do my thing. We're on a roll. We got a good space conversation going. I got 40 nations ready to roll, son. We'll talk about the Jeep in a moment, okay? This guy bought an aluminum tube to tell you what the frick you could do with an aluminum tube. But you work for yourself. Foz, my boss is an idiot. Oh, boss, dude, the shifts that I have to work, my boss sucks. Think about it. You know how hard it is to run your own damn company, especially if you're like to be a contractor where you're the only person that you employ. You're the boss. You're the CEO. You're the CTO. You're the COO. You're the board of directors. You're all the employees. Upper, lower, and middle management. So I hate myself. Great. It's a hard thing to do. Who do you think will be the first on Mars? Razzie, if we keep going the way that we're going, we'll get there. The U.S. will get there first. We're pretty far ahead. Even if you look at it, I'm not, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to beat the Mr. America drum, all right? Like, okay, dude, we've sent a human-rated capsule to the moon in the last 6 months. No one is even close to doing that, something like Artemis 1, in the near future. And I know what I know what you guys are going to say. You're going to say, well, what about China? Here's what I'll say. China most definitely has the technical expertise to be able to do something like this. The thing is that it's not just being smart all the time. You can have the technical expertise. There's the application of technology. And even if you have the best and brightest engineers on the face of the planet, it doesn't matter. It's still going to take them a good while to get to that point. Rocket science takes time. China definitely has the technical competency to do it. And if anybody else is going to do it, my guess it would probably be them. To the moon or Mars or wherever. However, it doesn't matter if you could have the smartest people on the planet. Building a rocket takes time. Saturn V took a decade to get working correctly. Well, I would say it took less time to get it working correctly. It took a decade to go from a presidential speech to putting boots on the ground on the moon. Starship's going to take 10 years before it gets operational. The N1 took 10 years to do something. Buran, space shuttle, take your pick. It's gonna, dude, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter your technical background, it doesn't matter how your country's run, it does not matter. The engineering is constant. It's always gonna take time. Now, China is secretive about what they do because China do be like that. Whatever, not my country. However, you'd be stupid to think that they weren't smart enough to do something like they absolutely are. Oh yeah. Why, dude? They launched their own space station by themselves. They definitely have the technical expertise. It's only a matter of time. It's gonna take time. Their rocket that they're going to use, the Super Heavy launch vehicle that they're looking to make, is called Long March 9, and it's what drawings that I have seen of that, or just pictures and renders, it's going to be as big as a Saturn V. But you don't just go from launching stuff into low Earth orbit to building... You don't go from building a 3-meter core rocket to a 10-meter core rocket overnight. That takes time. Rome wasn't built in a day, right? What about the European Union? I'm not pro-Chinese, but they're making leaps. Trevor, I think it's perfectly okay to acknowledge that your adversary is... I say China. I always say China as an adversary. I think it's stupid to pit it as us versus them. Like, you know, because that's like, it's like, oh, we hate China. Whatever, dude. You know, like, I find that if you just say, oh, they're idiots, they're behind, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, well, guess what? The U.S. made that mistake in the late 50s. Oh, the Soviet Union are idiots. They don't have an orbital class rocket. They're stupid. What the heck do they know? They don't have that. And then all of a sudden, Sputnik happened. And everyone went, oh, frick. What I'm trying to tell you is that it's stupid to underestimate what your enemy's doing. The more you can understand... And once again, I talk to China. I say like China's like some kind of enemy. They're not an enemy. They're just over there, right? Like, that's a stupid way to say it. Let's say your rival. It's important to understand what your rival is doing, okay? That should be considered in your analysis of what's going on, right? Like, duh. Like, I follow the Chinese space program. I don't really talk too much about it on here because, one, there really isn't much information, and two, there's some ethical concerns that I have, but whatever. But, once again, you'd be stupid to think that they're not smart enough to do that. They absolutely are. And that's just being real. You know what I mean? Always study the enemy, art of war, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I'm not... I always end up defaulting to call it, saying it's us versus them, you know, space race, blah, 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 because I'm a competitive son of a gun, dude. That's just how I roll. But it's not. The reality of the situation is that our countries are so intertwined economically that we're not... It's not going to be us versus them. That's really stupid. That'd be a really stupid thing to do. We're literally conjoined at the hip, whether we like it or not. I was in the military for 13 years, and we are confronting each other, but I respect them. That's right, Trevor. You should respect and understand your enemy. Because if you don't know what you're fighting against, how good of an effective fighter can you be? Yeah, Trevor, for sure. Problem is, China has an us versus them mentality. God, that us versus them mentality has basically grown out of a nationalistic sore spot from about 75 years ago. That's all I'll say. By the way, smart reuse splashdown testing from last year. Cool. Anyway, S-Master, talk to me. What's going on? Yeah, Vulcan, you remember when Tori Bruno teased this just out of the... Yeah, if you recall Tori Bruno... Okay, we're on the same page, dude. Yeah, he just teased this out of the blue one day, and then like a couple of days later, that Amazon deal came out. Yep, there we go. There's a drop shuttle for Lofted. Driving and lurking. Oh. Okay. S, if you're listening to this, rotational play in the drive shaft is no problem. It's just backlash. Backlash on the gears. Long story short, the way the gears work in transfer cases and differentials is that, and I'm putting my hands up, just, you're driving, so don't look at your phone. Imagine me putting my hands up and making one of those weird diagrams with my hands that I always do. The gears on a diff have space in between them, so that rotational play is just the gears doing this. They're just rocking back and forth between the teeth. The reason why they do that is because oil goes in between them, and gear oil is thick. It's thick sludge, and it smells like burnt hair that's been cooked in an oven for 20 minutes. Yeah. It's this thick, sludgy abomination, and it's designed to fill the void between the gears. So when the thing is working, that oil stays in and cools and lubricates the gears. Magic Hut, dude. When I did the pinion seal 2 days ago on the 59, and gear oil leaked out over my hand, all over my hand. My hand smelled like literally fertilizer for the rest of the day. Even after I washed it off and washed it a million times, it just smelled like freaking fertilizer that's been fertilizer on a hot day in a barn. So, yeah, the drive shaft, you want translation, not rotation. Rotational play on a drive shaft's fine. That's okay. Yeah. I don't know, S. Maybe like a weekend in the future if you have spare time. And just reply like yes or no to this. Maybe in the future, just bring it up here for a weekend. See if it makes it up here. Do an Artemis 1, and we'll look over it and we'll see what's good. You know what's interesting to me are the smaller, unknown, up-and-coming countries with space ambitions. I don't agree with what Iran is doing, but they are going to space a lot lately, and many don't realize it. Okay, yes. Talk to Bree and I. We'll figure it out. Sun-baked cow cookies. Yep. 70 gear oil is the same weight as 10 is the same viscosity as 10 weight motor oil. Yeah. I mean, Trevor, here, I'll give you a better example. Somebody that we're more friendly with. South Korea launched the KSLV Flight 3 this morning. It worked, from what I can tell. Yeah, South Korea's getting into the game, too. But yeah, good stuff. And Trev, thank you for what you did for 13 years. I do appreciate it, and I'm not just saying that because there's a bunch of people looking at me. I genuinely appreciate it as some bonehead civilian. Yeah, thanks, man. Thank you, sir. Go South Korea. 7. That's best Korea. Thank you. North Korea took that as a declaration of war. It's funny how when they launch it, it's self-defense, but when the other guy launches it, it's a declaration of war. Okay. Sure. All right. That sounds like schizophrenia to me. Yeah. Maybe even a little bit of narcissism in there. Ooh. Core stage 2. Dude, look at that. She's almost ready for some motors, man. New Zealand has always scared you. Oh, okay. Why? Motor install should begin next week. Cool, cool, cool. Although, I will say, Thomas, I will say that video of the great leader coming out of the hangar with like a bomber jacket and aviators going like, are you ready to launch? Are you ready to, like Top Gun style? And then they launch the rocket is probably one of the single funniest pieces of government media I've ever seen in my life. That is, it is freaking hilarious. Like, yeah, that's really funny actually. I don't mean to laugh, but what's going on? What? Dude, I watched that video. I'm like, the simulation is malfunctioning, guys. But remember, they hate Hollywood. All right. Okay. Sure. Why not? Anyway. So yeah, we have the Vulcan flight readiness firing soon, and Vulcan will be reusable in the future to just kind of cap that up. But also, yeah, they could also do that. They could bring down their second stages, which would be pretty dope. Yeah, that lofted experiment was sweet. Those inflatable heat shields are... That design is really, really good. I guess I should get ready to head out for the static fire. Flight readiness firing. Right, we've been over this now. Yeah, go, man. Yep. Okay, so Thomas, you sent this link, and guys, don't get me wrong. I'll save some links for later. We did like Phil, I think, linked this one. That one's from Zach. Zach is cool, dude. Zach's analysis is literally the best in the industry of spaceflight reporting by a long shot. How's the temperature here? It's 63 degrees and partly sunny. So Bristol Harbor Group Incorporated was recently selected by United Launch Alliance to design a river and ocean going manned roll-on roll-off barge for the transportation of Vulcan. Ooh, rocket ship 2. Neat. Hey, Tori Bruno, are you guys inclined to name it Rocket Ship 2 or something else totally? Still thinking about it. Bodie McBoatface. Bodie McBoatface. Yep. South Korea has some interesting launch site options, though they're a bit restricted in their corridors. It'd be cool if they could partner with Japan and their launch site, but I understand the cultural... yeah. Between South Korea and Japan, it's not as bad as you might think. But don't get me wrong, there's probably still something there. You know, humans being divisive about stuff. That never happens. It's weird. It'd be neat if spaceflight could help build some bridges, though. Yeah, I agree. Alvrek, who are you talking to? Why do you always do this? Why? Why do you always do this? Every time, dude. Who are you talking to? Are you just talking to yourself in my chat? Why do you do this? You know it bothers me, right? Like, who are you talking to? You have a conversation with yourself in my chat. I don't understand. Yeah, Erudite, that's fair. You do this all the time. You have a conversation with yourself in chat. I say don't do it, and you still do it, and then I ban you, and then you come back with a different username, say hi, act normal for about 10 minutes, and then just start talking to yourself again. I don't understand. This literally happens once a week. Why? Why do you do this? I don't get it. Like, just generally just really kind of wonder, do you not care what I have to say? Like, if you don't hear what I have to say, why are you here? He transcended. You don't understand. You know what the messed up thing is, chat? It's not a bot. Dude, me and my mods figured out it's not a bot. Weird, right? Like, if that's what we thought at first. I've never done anything like this. This is my first account to write. Sure. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty hilarious. I don't know what the long-term goal here is, S, but whatever. I've watched you from afar, Jafar, many moon rotary. Okay, thank you for watching. Alright guys, I do have more space news, but we'll do that when we get into ULA stuff. So what I'm thinking for the rest of the stream, dudes, we'll play some Kerbal for a little while. I want to get reacquainted with KSP1 and stuff. I want to play some KSP1 today. Yeah, and before, I know the questions that are going to get asked. Why are you playing KSP1? I'm playing KSP1 because KSP2 needs more time in the oven. It's not a bad game, it just needs more time in the oven. So let Nate and the developers cook. Let them cook. Let them cook. What are we doing in KSP1? I don't know, Source. I just kind of have to jump in and kind of figure out what I want to do. I did want to try to fix that SSTO launchpad though. That's kind of at the top of my list.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Hey, Robert gifted a sub to Erudite. Thank you. So you're going to work more on the Starship Mechazilla you were going to do? I don't know, Creeper, maybe. I guess this is the reason why users maybe move from one channel to another. Maybe it's possible, right? I don't know, Elevator Guy. I don't know what that guy's doing, dude. It just happens literally, it happens once a week, and I usually just kind of, alright. Or continue with CTS 5. I don't know. Thank you, sir. I bow to you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, and thank you that you've taken my nonsense. Oh, so you do admit you're the same guy now. Let's see what's going on in here. It's all good, man. I'm just messing. Like, guys, I have pretty damn good patience. It's not a big deal. Just, Alfred, try to keep the chat on topic, please. Dude, it screws me up. That's the reason why I make a big deal out of it. I don't mind if people have other conversations and chat about random things, but most of the time it's really hard to carry a conversation. Part of the reason why I can stream for... People ask me, like, how are you able to stream for that long? Well, most of the time I'm talking to you guys. It's really easy when you have chat playing off you and asking you questions 24/7. That's easy. That's why I can do like 16 hours straight. It's not that big of a deal. Because I can just sit here and answer questions about space all day. I know I can do that. But if there's stuff in chat that's just random stuff, like I can't, it makes it really hard for me to do what I do. That, like, and dude, one thing I kind of have a pet peeve about is people that make my job more difficult than it needs to be. So please, just try to keep the chat, try to keep it on topic for me, please. No need for an apology. I'm just telling you so you know in the future, so no need to apologize. Would you like to make a launch pad for the Coast Guard Youth Auxiliary? Enco, I came here in a time machine that you invented. Like, it's really, really difficult, guys. Like, and Alfred, this isn't you, so don't worry about it. It's just a general thing. It's really difficult. People do this all the time. I'm having a conversation about something, and this is like, don't get me wrong, it doesn't like piss me off. It just makes my job more difficult, right? And I am far from one to complain. I don't like doing that. Sit here and talk about space, play video games all day, all right? Well, that should be fun. It doesn't need to be more difficult. The part of the reason why this job is so good is because I don't have it, like, we don't have to, it shouldn't be like a normal job, you know? But part of it is like if I'm talking about something and somebody comes into chat and just talks about what they want to talk about. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't care if that's about space or even something even remotely related to subject matter, right? But it's like if somebody comes in here and spouts off like Rule 8 stuff out of the blue, right? It's just like politics. I'm like, dude, you're making my job more difficult. Please don't do that. Yes, it's not you. I can talk about cars at any time, but I was in the middle of talking about space. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta give me a second, dude. It's very. That's when it gets difficult. That's when it gets tough. Like, I can carry 3 or 4 different conversations with 3 or 4 different people all in my head at once. I don't know why I can do that. Probably because I got hit in the face a lot. The drive shaft, yeah, like, and I did some dumb stuff when I was younger. But I digress. But yeah, no, sometimes that gets hard to keep track of, dude. Boring. Anyone know a good pulled pork recipe? Not a thin. I swear to God, man. Did you grow up under power lines as a kid? Why? Is the F-35 still Rule 8 material? Just kidding. I know. Not really, Beefy. People have gotten better about it, but also I've gotten better about talking about things that are even slightly controversial and doing it with class and not sparking an argument. That's something I've worked on a lot since that rule. Because what I realized is that sitting here and saying don't talk about the F-35 usually just makes people on the internet want to do exactly that. It's almost like if I say to do something, chat's going to do the opposite. And then if I say to do it, chat will do it as well. So you kind of have to learn to go with the ebbs and flows, which is why I don't mind if people just ask random space questions out of the blue. It just might take me a second to respond. Daily appreciation of GSE. That is indeed a nice GSE. Too bad it's not around anymore.
Discovery.
Did they ever get reconnected to Juice? They didn't lose connection with Juice, Northern Sky. One of its sensors wouldn't deploy, but they did get it deployed, yeah.
Discovery.
Human person, 45 months. Thanks, man. Stay gifted a sub to Tomas. Slick 40 is on T number 3. Yep. Here's the question. Out of the Western Pacific Island countries, if I told you in the next 20 years one of them becomes host to a major multinational launch complex, which would be the one that you pick? Okay. Last question, and then I want to go mess with KSP1. I need to get reacquainted with my old friend. This probably doesn't match criteria because this isn't a Western Pacific island. But Quaj would probably be the right piece of geography for the job. Where is it? And before you ask why, well, there's already rocket launch pads there. Factoring in infrastructure and shipping lanes. Quaj. Yeah, I'd probably choose one of the atolls out here in the Marshall Islands. You don't have to worry about shipping lanes. The only shipping lanes that are in the even remote vicinity are stuff that's going down to New Zealand and stuff that's going up towards Japan and Asia. The shipping lanes don't go over here. Basically, the range where this thing would launch, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's somebody sailing from New Guinea to Hawaii, I'm sure. And also, all the resupply ships for all the people that live out on the Marshall Islands, right? Like all the infrastructure that's there. But the shipping lanes go up here, believe it or not. Not a lot of people know that. The ships, they don't hug the coast, but they kind of straddle it. That's where the shipping lanes go. They go up here, and then some stuff goes up through the Bering Strait, and then most of the shipping goes down here. There's literally nothing going on down here. Basically, where the range for the rocket would be. Less rogue waves, correct. Yeah, it's a major radar test site. Yep. Is that a World War II airfield? Most of the infrastructure out in the Marshall Islands is the result of defense spending during World War II. Like, if you zoom in on all the different atolls, you can see where they built the runways. Now, I have no idea what Johnson Atoll is doing. I'm pretty sure they're doing nothing. Whatever that is, it's clearly been abandoned. The X's on the runway are a pretty good giveaway. Yeah, Aqualux, that's probably where I'd want it to be. Where's Quadge again? Yeah, okay. Kind of right in the center. Yeah, launch sites out here would be pretty sweet. In fact, that's where Von Braun, when he talked about, like, this was in the 50s. He did a segment for Walt Disney in the 50s about STEM, saying, like, if he was going to build a rocket to go to the moon, where would he want the launch site? He said one of the atolls in the Marshall Islands because there's nothing out there. And he talked about the atolls being a major, like basically the launch site from Earth because there's nothing out there. There's ocean in all directions. You can go polar, you can go equatorial, you can go wherever you want. You can go retrograde if you want. There's nothing there. Yeah, Falcon 1 launched from Omelette.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Yeah, it's right there. See, Robert gifted a sub to Tori Bruno. Yeah, see, there's the Falcon 1 launch pad. It looks like the infrastructure from whenever this picture was taken is still... Oh, that picture's from 2006. Okay, never mind. Isn't there being nothing out there a major problem when trying to support large rockets and high cadences, though? Well, just like island hopping during World War II, you're going to have to bring the infrastructure, and the infrastructure costs a lot. But that's basically the case with anything that you mentioned in the query for your question. The way I see it, you're going to run into that problem pretty much anywhere. Maybe not like the Philippines, I suppose. Guam would be a good candidate. But there's people on it, you know? People live on Guam. Actually, up here in the Happy Pit, that would probably be a good spot. The Happy Pit is up here. Where are you? The Happy Pit. Actually, no, it's not on Guam. Excuse me, it's Tinian, I think. I think it's just north of here. Ah, there's the happy pit. It's somewhere up here. What is the happy pit? Oh, I'll show you. I'll tell you in a second. Gotta find it. Ah, yes, there we go. The happy pit. There's two of them right there. Anybody know? Underground nukes. No, it's not underground nukes, but it has something to do with that. Subterranean blast testing sites. Nope. Not a missile silo either. So, check this out. The nuclear bombs that were dropped on Japan, there were two different types. So, there was Little Boy, which is a uranium gun device, which is that, right? That's kind of oblong. And then there was Fat Man, which is what's called a plutonium implosion device, okay? The plutonium implosion device is spherical. So the bomb ended up being this weird oblong shape, and it needed a crazy fin on it to get it to stabilize, right? The thing about it is that it doesn't fit under a B-29. That doesn't fit underneath it. So the happy pit, and I don't even think it's called that. I call it the happy pit because something that lets out a lot of sunshine is the reason why it's there. The 509th Composite Group during World War II was at Tinian, not at Guam. That was my mistake. They were at Tinian. This is where they operated out of. This is where, those happy pits are where they loaded the nukes to fly over into Destiny, let's say. Those are the loading bays for the nuclear weapons. That's what they are. Interesting, right? So basically, they would roll the munition down into the pit, and the pit has a lift in it, think like a car lift. Basically, they'd roll it down there on its cart. Then the B-29 would basically be rolled into position, and then they would lift it up into the bomb bay, because the B-29 didn't have the ground clearance to fit it inside of the bomb bay, because the B-29s were not designed for that weapon. They were designed for conventional weapons that could fit underneath it. Just a lot of them. So yeah, happy pits. Mama said that happiness comes from magic rays of sunshine that come down when you're feeling blue. Actually, Tinian would be a good candidate for what you're talking about, Aquilux. A launch site out here? Not bad. You're close enough to Guam. You're far enough away from what little civilization is there. That wouldn't actually be too bad. Oh, Saipan is over there, though. Yeah. Maybe on Saipan somewhere? Yeah, up here. Not a bad candidate for a launch site. It looks like there's some. That's a trash pit. Okay. Just imagine Grunts loading the bomb, not even knowing what it is. Everybody in the 509th Composite Group was briefed about what the weapon did, but if I'm remembering right, only the pilots, the commanders of both the missions, so Paul Tibbets and Charles Sweeney are their names. Only they were briefed about what it actually does, like where it came from, right? Everybody knew it was some kind of bomb, right? But compartmentalization was absolutely a thing during the Manhattan Project, and only the B-29, commanders of each mission knew where the thing came from. Everybody knew what it was, but they didn't know where the frick it came from. Like, oh, you just produced this? Okay. But yeah, Vivi, it's kind of nuts, dude. 316 came out. Sharks took the rest. Wait, what? So, like the pit at Edwards for the X1. Thomas, I'm pretty sure that pit in Edwards for the X1 was a modified version of the Happy Pit. But yeah. Mm-hmm. Found this recently, B7 injector related. Okay. Yeah, there's your geography lesson for the day. And some history, too. This is a patent for a liquid rocket engine injector with variable flow area. Whoa. It's not ITAR, it's a public patent. Aqualux. Cool. That's neat. They can change the flow rate on the injector. That's very good for throttle ability and like landing on the moon. Just putting it out there. Okay. Let's do this.